I choose to walk in the spirit is difficult, dealing with all of the ignorance. But in the Bible, it's still talking about the Bible. What is the benefit? Everything about you counterfeit. There ain't no rebuttal you can counter with. On the internet, you the master teacher. In real life, you powerless. Keep it real with you, I don't have time for this. I ride for this, my forefathers died for this. They cry for this opportunity presently I possess, and right now you are the opposite. If you walk in love, you fulfill the law. Don't get involved and you ain't giving it all. If you ever think it's cool to threaten another man's family, then you already lost. Chemtrails got aluminum, heavy metal saturate the atmosphere. Manhattan Project, time travel, Mandela effect, what happened here? GMO food processing to the whole world become obsolete. A black man who believes in Jesus got my own team taking shots at me. You trespassing on property that you don't fully understand properly. All the back and forth, that's not for me, that's for ROC and the War Machine. If we ride together, then we ride together. If we can't do it, I'd rather leave. I still stand on the word of God till the day I die and no longer breathe. We trapped inside the diaspora, nightmares of the massacre. Cold sweat, I'm below deck in the middle passage, just a passenger. Revolutionary hardcore, liberation, that's a hard job. You ain't ready, you an oddball. Keep your mouth closed like lockjaw. I learned trying to bring people together on the same page, make them separate. All the talk about reconciliation, when the time comes, you hesitate. If Jesus was able to sit at the table with a bunch of sinners, you very fake. Your steps ordered by the Lord, and how it was yesterday, a big mistake. We the city sitting on the hill. Guess it all depends on how you live. Guess it all depends on how you feel, and we both know that ain't God's will. I stood on what I felt was right. I don't never question if God's real. Trapped inside this matrix, I'm about to pop the red and the blue pill.
Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, said the Lord. Therefore, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 12:14-21.
Peace, peace, peace. What it is your brother Tavon Swainell, aka the Orthodox Moore, aka the Seven Pillar Saracen, aka Brother Moore. Wishing you all peace and blessings. Earlier, I was tagged in a post by the Tail Twins. That was very interesting. And I'll explain why in a second because, I'll explain now and I'll show you why in a second. So it was an edited post because at first they were challenging me and Yeshub to show our autosomal DNA. Then they had to re-edit it to just challenge Yeshub to us autosomal DNA because anybody who follows my channel knows that you can see my autosomal DNA whenever you want to. It's up. I got all my autosomal DNA from 4 different DNA tests. I even have a playlist for my DNA journey that's public and whatnot. So they obviously had to go re-edit their joint and just challenge Yeshub to show his DNA. Now this is hilarious because they're trying to. There's this claim being made that our autosomal DNA is proving that we are Europeans, and therefore that's why we rely on haplogroup DNA in order to find out who is and is not Shemitic based upon genetic lineage. So this is extremely, extremely interesting. This is the latest claim that they've made, and recently they went after a brother in the Yap gang, the homie Rue. And again, I found this to be hilarious. They're claiming Rue to be an Edomite, etc., based upon a section of a genetic test that he showed that still doesn't say what they say that they're saying. And so, yeah, real quick, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show a couple of things right quick. Yeah, this is what I got in my notifications. Y'all can see that. Let me do this, make it bigger for y'all. But so this is what I got in my notifications, right? I got notified that Taylor made a video talking about the Three Stooges, etc. Genesis 49ers and Yap Gang foolishness. The original post was at Genesis 49ers at the Orthodox More. Let's see your autosomal. That eventually got revised and edited to, again, me and Yeshua getting tagged in the post, and it says, let's see Yeshua's autosomal. So they're going to make the claim, they're going to think that Yeshua is like some large percentage of, like, I don't know, like they've never actually given a percentage as to what makes somebody Israelite and what makes somebody not Israelite, etc. in terms of African and European DNA. It seems like 50% is their cutoff. It seems like 50% is their cutoff. Now they're 20 to 25% themselves. They're 1/5 to 1/4. But it seems like 50% is their cutoff. Now, if that's the case, then Alizar is out. And they were just tagging Alizar in a post about this whole DNA situation, right? Which again adds to the confusion. I was on Genesis 49ers last night talking about that Mexican standoff that whole post represents, and I'll break that down as I go through this. But yeah, I'm gonna slowly walk through this right quick. Hold on, let me skip a couple of these right quick and just get to the point on some stuff, and I'll come back to these right quick. So in their video, they were playing James, they were playing Yeshua, some other people from Yap on Garfield's channel, and they were talking about the Yap model. And so in the Yap model, they believe that so Yeshua and James Cassell were talking about EP2 being Abraham or upstream for whatever the Israelites are, right? That E is the basal Shemitic group, etc. That downstream from E, you get EP2. And so from there, Yeshua and James are saying that they believe that Abraham is EP2, etc., and that Israel is going to be a downstream mutation from EP2, either E1B1A or E1B1B, mixture of both, etc., because EP2 can split into both. Now, not everybody in Yap Game agrees on the entire model going from Shem to Israel. However, what everyone does agree on is, again, this three pair group concept, to where you have Shem, Ham, and Japheth representing three groupings of haplogroups, and how that breaks down. AB being Ham, DE being Shem, CT, CF, etc. being Japheth, and everything downstream from them being related to them, etc. Now, this is why I got my title the way it is, right? You got Candyland Israelites trying to colonize your mind. So first and foremost, yes, there's a lot of people saying that E1B1A is going to be the Israelite clade, right? You got people like Benai Israel saying that. You got people like Ron Dalton saying that, right? There's no one in Yap Gang that says E1B1A specifically, uniquely by itself is the Israelite clade. There's no one that says that. There's no one that says that. And you can't find it on tape anywhere. The closest you're going to get to it is someone saying this, that they believe that Israel will be downstream from EP2 and could be a blend of E1B1A and E1B1B. That's the closest you're going to get to it, fam. Moving forward. This I find hilarious. The Israelites would be mixed. They would have J or T, but can't have G or R1B. Ashkenazi haplogroups are the only ones allowed to be included. This is hilarious. Go back and listen to the video for yourself, right? So Yeshub's talking about Yeshub and Garfield are talking about who would be in the Levant and doing things at the time, etc., and would be part of the mixed multitude, etc., whatnot, right? Yeshub doesn't deny that R could be part of it. And I'll speak to this here because I'm the person in the Yab gang dealing with the mixed multitude model, right? Yeah, J could definitely be there. T could definitely be there. You're going to consistently hear me talk about an E and J block party, right? It's a joke I have, right? And I base my model based upon the ancient Dina that we currently have from North Africa and the Levant. So right off rip, we already know that the area that the Israelites came out of in Egypt and whatnot was a very mixed area of all kind of people coming in from Canaan, collectively known as the Rechenu. And amongst that mixture of people, we know that there was E, there was J, and there was R. If y'all go back and watch my video, and if you go back and watch any of these videos that Yap Gang's talking about, no one's saying that you can't be G and can't be R1B and be an Israelite. No one's saying that in any way, shape, or form. And this is a conversation that needs to get slowed down, because anyone who goes through the scrolls slow enough and thoroughly enough understands there's tribal Israel and then there's national Israel. Israel started off as a set of 12 tribes, and then they kept getting sojourners that would cling to them from other nations, starting with people that came out from Egypt. And I'll show later on that is, again, we're going to be starting off with E, J, and R, and then accumulating things from there. And that grouping of E, J, and R could get bigger the more we find out about the area of like Goshen or Avarice or whatnot, as we find more information about it, because that's a very hard area to get information about, because the Muslims running that area make it very difficult to do digs. Very, very difficult to do digs. You literally have to, when you dig a site, you have to fill it in when you're done. And when you come back next year, you have to re-dig it out and go deeper. Like it's crazy. It's really difficult to dig in that area. However, there's new papers coming up that's going to be talking about a couple of migrations coming in from the Levant into Africa, etc. It's going to be interesting to see what it talks about. Talking about Natufi migrations and all that type of stuff. Really interesting to see what it talks about. But nobody's saying that G and R1B preclude you from being an Israelite nationally. Via the YAP model, yes, it would preclude you from being one tribally. 100%. 100%. But it doesn't preclude you from descending from a sojourner who still has inheritance in Israel. And two, it doesn't preclude one from sojourning now and being a convert like the rest of us reverts, and being a first generation convert or revert to the team. But see, people got an issue with that concept because they don't want that. They don't want that national tribal thing. They want it to be like tailing them, like, no, it's this whole Negro only concept. And that's not what the scrolls say in any way, shape, or form. But we're gonna keep going with this. Garfield was being honest, yet they avoid answering the question. Someone lying. Yap group, nothing but agents. Why are they defending Ashkenazi but attacking Negroes? So Garfield asks, so why couldn't Alazar's R be part of that mixed multitude? And so if you're listening to what Yap's talking about, when they break down Alazar's video, they're saying, and we're all saying together that most likely that he's RM269 versus the R1B V88, because he would have showed it if he was. Now the R1B V88 is definitely part of that mixed multitude. Definitely. When she was talking about that R, that didn't really play a role in the Levant like that. He's talking about that RM269, fam. We definitely see R in the Levant. We definitely see R even in parts of North Africa, right? As Alazar points out, he gets the haplogroup wrong, but he points out 3 definite pharaohs that were R1B, the V88, right? Hence, it's part of my mixed multitude model, along with E1B1B, E1B1A, J1, J2. And you know what? If I find evidence of G, yeah, I got no issue throwing G in there. The only evidence I got at G right now, in the area, is having to do with invading kings to Egypt, etc. Right? In a wrong time period. But if I find something that puts G there, I gotta put it in the mixed multitude model. And I got no issue putting it in the mixed multitude model and saying national Israel. Because you know what? I do the same thing with my lineage, right? Like, so I claim descent via my mother, right? Which means via the scrolls, I'm not doing nothing on certain levels of stuff, right? But on another level, I wasn't ever claiming it with my father, right? Because my father never claimed a thing, right? But as I did more DNA study myself, in which I'll show you what it is for me, which I showed you the other day, but I'll show it again now. Just for clarity's sake, this is the argument I'm making from my father's side, right? My father definitely descends from people in West Africa who came from a very, very Hebrew culture where they practiced, in areas where they practiced Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. His autosomal DNA in jet match, etc., it kept hitting up with Ethiopian Jewish type stuff, right? A lot of East African stuff as well, right? His Y DNA is EM33, EM132, EL94, right? That's mine. I'm saying there's no way that that's the Israelite haplogroup. None. It doesn't make any sense. When I look at its distribution in Africa and other places, it makes sense that it could be a sojourning haplogroup. And again, sojourners have just as much right to have inheritance in Israel as anyone else. So check this out, Theo. I'm saying me, you, and Alazar are in the same boat. At best, we paternally descend from sojourners. At best. At best. But we, all 3 of us, have autosomal DNA that connects us heavily to tribes that have Israelite practices, etc., which again confirms the concept of us most likely descending from sojourners. So again, no one's making the claims that you're talking about, that G and R1B or EM33 can't be part of national Israel. What Yap is saying, including me, including for my own paternal haplogroup, is there's no way that they're part of a tribal Israel via the Yap model. But we're getting into this whole, like, why are they defending Ashkenazi but attacking Negroes? This Ashkenazi claim, they're saying this about the good brother Rue, who's part of Yap. Shout out to Yap. But attack Negroes. Now this is hilarious because they call Rue a Negro themselves, but at the same point in time, their whole thing is if you look Negro, you are, and again, it's got to be this American Negro thing. You are the true Israelites of the Bible. They won't show you what they look like, Rue will show you what he looks like. I'll show you. I'm showing you what I look like all the time. This is my actual picture. Is my actual my thumbnail. You can see videos of my face being shown on my channel, etc. Right? You can't see what they look like, right? But they put this video after Rue went on last night and showed his DNA. This is why I'm saying they're trying to colonize your mind, fam. This is literally a Jedi mind trick. Rue already proved the thing last night. Already proved the thing. Already proved the thing. This is one of the tests that autosomal test that Rue showed that they're trying to point fingers at, and it's laughable. This is so hilarious. This is super hilarious, right? And I'm gonna let you know what. Instead of me breaking it down, I'm gonna let Rue break it down. Oh, I got another one here. Yeah, they say now we know why, right? Because they're trying to claim that Rue is the Ashkenazi we're defending while attacking Negroes. Let me go back at this, right? That's Rue's picture right there. It don't look like, I mean, that looked like a Negro to me, so-called air quotes Negro to me, right? Which is crazy because they're basing everything off phenotype, right? And this is where this phenotype stuff, this argument is hilarious because the phenotype works as long as you agree with me. If you disagree with it, then you got to be Edomite every time. Every time. Up until the point you disagree with me, though, you're an Israelite. Just off the phenotype. But you can have the phenotype and not be an Israelite just because you disagree with me. Nah, you're an Edomite now. Hilarious. But I'm going to let Rue break this down. I'm going to let Rue break this down right quick.
To my brother Rue, man, you got the floor.
Well, before Rue reads his DNA, first go to mine. I want Rue to read what they said, their statement, so Rue can clarify for himself, and then go to Rue's. So can you read that, Rue?
Wait, oh, you talking about the statement that Teo made? What is this?
Yeah,
this is one of Genesis 49ers Jap boys. Can you believe they say that this guy is a Hebrew? They stick with haplogroups because their autosomal is exposing them as Europeans. They fear the autosomal results. This Negro is at best Esau. If you do not go by the curses. I like that statement. This Negro is at best Esau if you do not go by the curses. That's the barometer of truth. The Yap Gang are a joke and wannabe scientists. They can't even read the scientific papers properly. I don't know why they're rolling on the floor laughing.
Hey, hold on, real quick before you go in, real quick. Isn't this kind of an oxymoron? They're saying that this guy, the Yap boys. Oh, can you believe they say that this guy is a Hebrew? Then we jump down a little bit and it says this Negro is at best Esau. So what is Esau?
A Hebrew.
Isn't he a Hebrew?
Oh my goodness, bro! I just know.
Like this is foolishness.
Edomites would be Hebrews because they descend from Abraham. Oh man!
Unless they feel Esau's Japhet, unless they feel Esau's Japhet and he's related to them. You know, he's the white man. You know, this is the foolishness.
But you know, the crazy thing is they said that haplogroups, because let me just get autosomal is exposing them as Europeans. So it's like they're saying this guy is Hebrew, then autosomal DNA is exposing us as Europeans, but then this Negro, even though he just got done saying Europeans, this Negro is at best Esau. Like that's like
I'm a European Negro Edomite.
Hebrew
Doesn't this sound like the spirit of confusion?
It does. And the Most High is not the author of confusion. So
but we're finding their markers in the BC period in ancient Europe and in the Common Era. 550 Common Era G2A was found in Italy. Like you guys are done. You're cooked. You're cooked. It's another hibachi meal, man. Another hibachi meal. You're getting cooked in front of your family. Go ahead, brothers.
I want to see if is Rue really, European. Let's actually look that out. Let's see if he's mostly autosomal European. Let's take a look.
Would you look at that? 38.43% Ghanaian, Liberian, Sierra Leonean, L2A1N, which let's get into where that comes from. Right here in Northwest Africa. How you like that? So from a patrilineal side, I'm Northwest African. And let's see, a matrilineal side. Then from a patrilineal side, EL516, that's Central Africa. And where do its children go? To Arabia, some to Britain, some to West Africa, some down here to Central Africa. But look at that percentage. 81.61% African.
So you're not.
And that's just with this test. And that's just with this test. With this one, I'm 92% African. But let's stay with this one for right now. This is the test where I did my my 23andMe test based off of. So you see the Greek, you see the Pakistan, you see the India and the Russia, Asia. So the results I ended up getting, which this is just based off of my basic 23andMe test. So I got Limba as my top. My lowest is 16.03 with Bantu Southeast.
So wait a minute. Hold on. You can't speed past that, brother. So
no. Abu made a post about that actually. Let me pull that.
Are you saying that you got more African in you than these NIM scores?
I have a better chance of being from a descendant of actual Hebrews than they do.
Mm-hmm.
Being a blood descendant on my patrilineal side.
Are you saying that them being from having a marker that's most likely derived from Europe is reducing their chances and not increasing it?
Yes, exactly what I'm saying.
Show that autosomal.
Look at this. Let's look at this PCA plot. See, look how close the Limba are. Ethiopian, got Ethiopian, Jewish, Moroccan, Egyptian. I wonder what theirs would look like.
Mm-hmm.
It probably wouldn't have so many African groups in it, or Middle Eastern groups. Well,
I'm trying to find it right now.
The other one.
Abu made a post on it.
This is based off of the imputed data that I got from DNA Genix from this test right here. So based off of that imputed data, they incorporated this Balkan Greek DNA. And when they incorporated that, they came up with Macedonian, Greek Thessaly, Bulgarian, Romanian, Ashkenazi, Greek, Kosovar, Serbian. And Macedonians had Jewish communities. Greek Thessaly had Jewish communities. There were Jewish communities in Romania. We know about the Ashkenazi. We know about the Greek Romaniots. Like, I don't understand why they would say this makes me a European when in fact there were Jews in those areas.
Hey, Ru, if you don't mind, can you go back to your Limba? I want to see to the 23andMe of this version. And then I'm going to pull up their
So this is real quick. Might mean to cut you off. Somebody asked a question about, they were saying like, where's because we're pulling up all these different tests and that, we always tell them to do 23andMe, that's where you start at. And then you could take your kit, you could drop it into some of these other tools, and you can find out. This is what we do all the time. We always running our stuff through our DNA through different tools. So just pay attention to what's going on. We'll get to all that later on down the line. Pardon me for interrupting, bro.
Scroll up to your calculators, Ru, really quick.
You talking about this right here?
Yeah, And your shoe. So we have for root. Let me make it bigger for me. Your limba is 9.351, and it's number one. Yeshu, can you share my screen? Let's see how close Teo is when it comes to limba. Rue is at 9.3, we'll just say. All right, so we got Yakoba and Teo. And Yakoba is at 22.0. Teo is at 21.7. You're a lot closer to the limba than Teo and them, because you're at 9.3. They're at 22 and 21.0 and 7. Very interesting. And then their
Not
Bantu
only
is
that,
like,
but look at the Yoruba. Look how far away they are from Yoruba. All of us
right,
are
it
close
just
to
gets
that.
worse.
Look at that.
Bantu's at 25, Yoruba's at 37, Mandinke 43.
The Lumbee. Man.
It gets worse and worse. But you know, Rue, he's can we go back to your screen, Rue? Rue is a lot closer.
You gotta explain to the audience that the distance, think of it like actual distance, like miles away from your home or something.
Mm-hmm.
The greater that number, the less like the farther the relation is. The relation is what am I trying to say? You're not as related to them. You're not closely related. So the smaller the number, meaning that you're very closely related. So that's how you interpret genetic distance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like my man EB was about to say on the video, they're further away from the limit than Rue is. So that's even that's a different test. That's comparing the My True Ancestry to the Jed match. Even when you compare their My True Ancestries together, it's still Rue's still closer to the limit than they are, right? But I hope y'all saw that. Like, so my man, not only was he 80+% sub-Saharan African, which I had literally said prior to the show on this channel. After that show, you have Tail Twins putting out a post in a video making the claim that he's mostly European. So if you look at that map, 0% Western European. 0% Western European. Even the European that he had was Mediterranean, fam. And like he said, literally there's Jewish communities in almost every place that he was talking about. There's literally books of the Bible having to deal with some of those Jewish communities he was talking about. But we're gonna keep going into this thing, right? So I'm gonna run this back good and thorough, like, fam. Good and thorough, like. Let me see, where am I at? We finna do it like this and start at the beginning. And like the Mad Hatter says, when you get to the end, stop. So what if I told you saying you're a victim of racism while being racist is not helpful? This whole Candyland Israelite conundrum where they try to colonize your mind, like, this is craziness to me, right? They will buck shots at the E-clad, which the majority of you are, the males out there, right? They will buck shots at that. 70% of us out there, I believe, 70% of us coming off the slave ships are haplogroup E of some sort. Nobody coming off the slave ships was haplogroup G. Some people came off that were R1BV88. And you might have had a few. You might have had a few coming off as RM269 as descendants of some Luso-Africans, and also maybe some descendants of some Moorish populations that were trading and going back and forth between West Africa, etc. Prior to the Luso-Africans get the Portuguese going down there, etc. Right? But that's even less likely than the R1BV88, right? Yeah, but there's a whole Candyland Israelite conundrum where people are trying to colonize your mind right now and buck shots at all. Like they're having you lift up people who literally most likely descend from slavers, right? As the true Israelites. As the true, and they have the power to say who's an Edomite and who's not an Edomite. No matter what their ancestry is. So their standards are you have to be a majority sub-Saharan African. Okay, Ru is that. He's more sub-Saharan African than they are. And I'll verifiably show that. Ru is that. Ru also has a maternal haplogroup that goes to Northwest Africa and a paternal haplogroup that goes to Central Africa. And goes back and forth to the Levant and whatnot, and to Arabia and whatnot. It's a trip, fam. Like, so by their own standards, Ru is more of a Hebrew than they are. And Ru has 0% Western European. Hold on, let me say he has 0 slaver DNA. And not all, you don't always get the European by it being slavery. You know what? There's sometimes it was amicable, fam. But let me say it like this just to be clear: 0% chance of it being slavery DNA. 0% chance. I don't remember the Greek plantations popping off, fam. If y'all got the Greek plantation stories, hey, send them to me, fam. If you got me the Greek plantation stories where you can verify that the Greeks that came through were EL 516, like your boy, sure. I'll totally hear you out, fam. Until then, I'm laughing at you all the way. I'm laughing at you all the way, fam. Y'all are talking fairy tale nonsense right now. Fairy tale nonsense. Breaking your own rules every step of the way. Ru's more limber than you. He's more sub-Saharan African than you, but he's an Edomite. Why? Because he denies the curses concept, denies that you identify people by the curses. And this is what I was talking about with Sakar the other day, right? Is everyone having this purity doctrine it's really a double negative, man. On the one hand, they're going to tell you that the slave master was taking advantage of our women and creating progeny off that. But at the same point in time, they're going to want to tell you that same progeny if you deal with the you are who your father is, etc. Well, some people do. Some people don't. You just got to have the right skin tone, right? But a lot of people deal with the you are who your father is concept. So if your father was a slaver, how are you claiming the curses? If your father was a slaver, how are you claiming the curses? If you're claiming just skin color, that doesn't work either in America, fam. Like, so for people who know the history of Mississippi and Louisiana, etc., you understand that there was a huge mixed society there. You had mulattoes, quadroons, octoroons, quintroons at different strata of society, having different rights, etc., at different strata. Some people descend from those stratas of society. How are you claiming the curses, man? Where in that society, it's very common to where on paternal and maternal lineage, you descend from slavers. But you look Negro. air quotes Negro. Mississippi, Louisiana, you're going to have a higher propensity of people being European on either side. What's interesting is I believe Yeshua brought out some information about on the maternal lineage, where it's going to be more likely to happen down that way. And ironically, the twins never showed us their maternal lineage. They'll tell you all day that they're G2A4, but they won't tell you that maternal lineage, and are demanding that people show you their autosomal DNA, and won't show all of their own autosomal DNA. So let's get to it, fam. The Negro-only Israelite doctrine is skin and is a skin and color doctrine. Period. It's all there is to it, right? It's just a phenotype concept. If the phenotype fits, you must acquit, and that doesn't make sense, fam. Because I can show you full black societies that descend from slavers or whatnot, fam. Check this out. So your boy Alazar was just showing you that his great grandmother descended from that concept in Louisiana. That's commonplace, fam. That's commonplace. How you can go back to the 1870 census and find out that his great grandfather was called a mulatto. So his great grandfather and great grandmother were mulattoes, right? That's common down there, fam. So down that way, it's common to have people who are 50, 60, 70, 80% sub-Saharan African, but also have European DNA that makes it to where their haplogroups are European, where daddy's daddy is European and mama's mama is European, but they look so-called black. Them societies definitely can't claim the curses, fam. So if you want to live in a glass house and throw stones, fam, have at it, Hoss. I'm not gonna stop you. I'm gonna keep lobbing. I'm gonna keep giving you rocks, bro. I'm gonna keep giving you rocks. Here's where I respect the Teo twins, right? Where a lot of people have a secret skin doctrine, they come right out on Front Street and tell you what time it is. They tell you that their channel is about end time prophecy and information about the true Hebrew Israel, about who the true Hebrew Israelites are, right? And they'll let you know going down if you keep reading, right? I'll read the whole thing. A channel about end time prophecy and information about who the true Hebrew Israelites are, who the people are, we the people. The End of the World Ministries is not associated with any hate group, cult, or extreme religious organizations. The End of the World Ministries is the teaching ministry chosen to be a part of awakening the true Hebrew Israelites to who they are, both from a biblical and historical context. The End of the World Ministries believe that the Negroes are the true biblical Israelites, and that the Negro fulfills all prophecies concerning the Israelites, as well as have been authenticated through historical text. Respect for that. A lot of people won't say that. A lot of people will try to hint at in the dog whistle thing, but y'all will flat out say it. Respect for that. But now that you've come out and said it, now we got to deal with the inconsistencies thereof. Because you're pointing fingers at people who put out more genetic information than what you're putting out. And you're trying to hide why. And you're trying to hide why you won't put it out. But how about we just let people know why you won't tell people? And at the same point in time, do a compare and contrast, man. So out of everybody in YAP, I have the most European DNA. Let's see if I'm mostly European as we go through this going forward, though. So again, this is a post that Yacob made a long time ago, and he makes the claim that Orthodox Moor admits that he's mostly European. Where have I ever said that, fam? Y'all seen my videos. Where have I ever said that I'm mostly European? Even if I was mostly European, not an issue. No one's tripping on that. No one, I could care less. You know what I'm saying? I don't care that Al-Azhar's probably over 60% European. I got people that I run with that are full European. I don't care, fam. I don't care. But when have I ever said that I haven't? And that's why people are trying to Jedi mind trick you and colonize your mind. They'll say stuff like, that I've lied on them and they got the proof, but they've never ever showed proof of me ever lying on them. Ever. On nothing. On nothing. But they claim that I'm mostly European. We're gonna walk that one out. Let's see here. Yeah, they've also made claims about my religious beliefs that they never clarified. But this is interesting, right? I'm gonna go to the second paragraph right quick. I'll even go. You know what? Let's just do it like this. Abu is a non-black who, for some reason, has become obsessed with the activity of those of us who call ourselves Israel. When Pastor Kelly mentioned his family history concerning the Pews, Abu took it upon himself to try and discredit the information. Every move by Abu has been to attack leaders in the community. Bryn has moved like an informant who has used his platform to attack our community. Although he says that he is for truth, he also he has allowed people like Abu to use his platform like a weapon against our community. Once the Pew issue died down, Abu moved his attention toward discrediting our Israelite claims concerning DNA. Although Abu is not a black man, he has followed our community like a predator, lurking to devour. Now for Orthodox Moore has embedded himself into our community as he claims to be an Israelite. Orthodox Moore has a high level of European in himself, yet claims to be Israel. So they're saying that a high level of European makes you less of an Israelite. It discredits your claim. Yet never give a threshold. Yet never. So if I'm the threshold family, it's about to get peak for a bunch of people. It's about to get peak for a bunch of people. But I digress. Orthodox Moore has aligned himself with Abu, a person working to cause confusion and disunity among our people. Orthodox Moore has doubled down on his support of Abu and has himself claimed to be an enemy of Pastor Kelly and Benaiah Israel. I've never claimed to be an enemy of them. I've literally interviewed one of them. The other one agreed to interviews. When a bunch of information came out I'll just say it like this. Y'all seen my reviews on information. You've seen them buckshots back and forth. You saw everything that happened with the Pews, right? Y'all know the cat situation. I don't need to rehash it. As a matter of fact, that's what all this is about. It's about the cat stuff. It's about the Pew stuff. It's about people fabricating information and everybody fabricating information, covering each other's tracks. I.e., Candyland Israelites trying to colonize your mind, fam. So listen to this, right? Orthodox Moore has doubled down on his support of Abu and himself, claiming to be an enemy of Pastor Kelly and Benaiah Israel, although Pastor Kelly and Benaiah have never mentioned his name, never mentioned my name. What are you talking about? They've literally made videos together about me, fam. And on top of that, this is the funny thing. So you got Teo and them, the Teo twins, blocking for Benaiah Israel and for Kelly and for Pastor Kelly and whatnot. And this is the coldest part, right? So in the documentary, whose information about the Pews, where I dissect all their information and how they literally lie to the people, fabricate information and lie to the people about what they found about the Pews and whatnot. Show the truth about the Pews. As far as we can document it right now, from all sides. In that documentary, Benaiah is making the claim. And Kelly's right there, like right there with them, fam. not giving no distance to the thing, right? The documentary itself that they're in is making the claim that E1B1A is the Israelite haplogroup. They claim all the L haplogroups, man. Have you ever seen the Tail Twins ever bust shots at that documentary, at Benaiah, at Hebrew Nation Building, at Ron Dalton? No, not over that. No, not at all. But Yap Gang has a model that says something similar. Not even as exclusionary as what they're talking about. And it's all the smoke in the world. It's double-mindedness, man. And what does the scroll say about a man who's double-minded? Y'all know what it is. Like I said, trying to colonize your mind, fam. So I already showed y'all this where they were calling us out. And again, they want to see people's autosomal. We'll show people's autosomal. I'll let Yeshub talk about Yeshub's autosomal, but it's going to be a bad day for y'all, fam. Again, your standards. Again, I'm the standard for what's too low. For how much European is too much European, right? So let's be clear about this. The Taylor twins believe that the Negroes are the true biblical Israelites and that the Negro fulfills all prophecies concerning the Israelites, as well as have been authenticated through historical texts. That's a straight Negro-only doctrine. Respect you for saying that out loud, bro. Saying it with your chest. Got you. And I respectfully disagree, and we'll point that one out. So now you have someone like Sean, his lackey, kiss up on Orthodox more because they are probably not Israel. Based upon what, right? This is a claim that they made in some of the stuff I didn't read, right? Because it's not autosomal DNA. Again, Sean and I are both of African descent via autosomal DNA and also paternal DNA. Orthodox has a high level of European in himself, yet claims to be Israel. Being European can negate one being Israel, yet no threshold is given. But I'm going to be the threshold since I'm the one that's shooting at. Abu is non-black. Is a non-black, more like Esau running amok is what they call him, right? And this is funny because this is having an exchange having to do with the when you're saying the history of this, like there's Abu and I go through his Jed match or whatnot, and it's hilarious because he gets higher in Jed match with Ethiopian Jewish hits in the Ethio Helix than everyone on this, like then I believe we saw Pastor Kelly's DNA. I believe we saw Dante's. I believe we saw Sister E's. I believe we saw Majors. He gets closer than all of them. And so this is hilarious because I was making posts about Abu being an Egyptian or an Ethiopian Jew, etc. or whatnot, right? And so this is hilarious to me, right? Because like they're saying, well, he can't be based upon the fact that he's non-black. Yet the twins claim to be red like David. Some people even say that they're light bright next to white. People that know him and whatnot. I can't call it because I've never seen them. And they won't show themselves, right? It's super top secret. You can't know their names. None of that type of stuff. You know my government name. You know what I look like. I got no issue saying I'm one of the ready ones. None whatsoever. Doesn't bother me in the least because I don't got a skin doctor. But this is the stuff that they teach that got to get dealt with. The hypocrisy of hate and science of skin doctrine, right? Haplogroup hypocrisy. This equals you can have more than one Y DNA. Like they want to make videos saying that when they run their stuff through my true ancestry that a third of their hits come up as E1B or E1B1A. And I'll let Yeshub touch on that because Yeshub found some great stuff out about that the other night that I'm sure he'll bring up when he talks about his autosomal DNA. Because I'm sure he's gonna. I'm sure Yeshua was gonna clap back at these cats at one point. Because that was just a ridiculous post. Again, they've also talked about this is a part of their haplogroup hypocrisy. Haplogroups are in alphabetical order so that G would falsely come out of E. E, F, G. Caught them up on that. They got hot about that. I wanted to claim that they never said that stuff, and it's verified that they said it in multiple places. Brian's channel, my channel, etc. Haplogroup hypocrisy. Haplogroups will connect you with white Europeans that have the same haplotype. However, autosomal DNA won't. Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. Because if you go to that same joint, that same mitral ancestry joint, I'll show you. Like if a third of your joint is African, that means 2/3 of your joint ain't. That means 2/3 of your joint ain't. Skin doctrine scenario. If Abraham was black, then his descendants must also stay black in order to be Israel. That's their concept. You can't be Abraham's descendant and not be black. So somehow Abraham's DNA will magically keep you from getting darker or keep you from getting lighter. Even though we all know that's not the case. And particularly us mixed people who know the ones who are lighter than their fathers and darker than their mothers, or lighter than their mothers and darker than their fathers. We know what time it is, fam. That's not how DNA works, fam. Abraham's seed scattered to the four winds, scattered to the four corners, is not going to stay looking one way. That's just the facts of the game, fam. G2A4 were black Israelites in Europe and in the Levant. This is something that they really tried to push, man. Yap Gang is a cult of E, but no smoke for Benaiah Israel whatsoever. Whatsoever. Hold on. Already hit you with that. Let me skip through this right quick. So again, this is my man Rue. 80+% sub-Saharan African, mtDNA L2A1N, yDNA EL516, zero Western European DNA, i.e. 0% chance of having slavery DNA. He showed you mama's DNA originates in Northwest Africa. Actually, not too far from where my father's DNA actually is most concentrated. And then he shows you that his patrilineal DNA originates in Central Africa and shoots off into the Levant and into Arabia. This is the Teo twins numbers from my true ancestry. So again, Rue was at 9.3 in my true ancestry, and even there with the limit, 9.3 with the limbo. They're at 15.97 with the limbo. He's still extremely close. When it came to jet match, it was 22. He was more than twice as close. Here, still closer, fam. This is what they hit, right? This is their populations that they hit. We're going to compare this to mine right quick, because Rue showed you his. We're going to compare this to mine right quick. One Jewish population in their total 20 that they hit, right? This is their concept. And again, I will let Yeshua break this down, but it's beautiful how he's going to be able to break this down. But again, I'll say this. They're saying like, okay, a third of our joints is E1, B1A. Okay, that means the vast majority of these joints ain't. And literally 3 of them, maybe 4 of them, you're going to find in West Africa. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 out the 9 you find in West Africa. This is your boy. Oh, let me make sure I'm not doing this too small. Yeah, you can see that. So my joint got, again, Lummi tribe, Pygmies, Moroccan, Ethiopian, Puerto Rican, Lemba, Mozambique, Ethiopian Jewish in my top 8. I got Lemba and Ethiopian Jewish in my top 8, right? They didn't get Ethiopian. They didn't get any Jewish in their top 8. I got Ethiopian Jewish in my top 8. Now watch this. Let's count how many Jewish people I connect to. So you see all this, the Ethiopian, we'll do it like this. Ethiopian Jewish, Ethiopian, Moroccan, Mozambique, Yemen, Egyptian, Jordanian. But again, Ethiopian Jew, 1. Libyan Jew, Algerian Jew, Moroccan Jew. 4 African Jews right there. Keep going. Ashkenazi. Jew Romanian. Ashkenazi again. You want to count the Lemba? That's a whole nother one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8. 8 different Jewish peoples, fam. Like I said, the way DNA works, fam, you're going to connect to more Jews, not less, if you're Jewish, fam. Particularly if you come from the diaspora that was spread around, fam. If y'all are claiming to be Sephardic Jews, this, that, and the third, there's no way you're not going to connect to certain European Jews, fam. That's just the way it is, because certain Sephardic populations went to certain European populations. Oh, I see a bunch of the Yap family. I see a bunch of the Yap family in the joint. Feel free to jump on if you want to, fam. Difference between me and Teo. I'm not going to be afraid to show you any Ashkenazi links. None whatsoever. Like particularly like here, like look at this. Like if you understand like where the Sephardic people went to, like even with Rue and whatnot, they were talking about like Bulgaria and whatnot. There's Sephardic populations in Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, etc. The Sephardic populations went to North Africa, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. They went to the Dutch colonies in the Americas, etc. They went a lot of places, fam. So this is Teo Yacoba's. Well, so Yacoba took the ancestry test. Teo took the 23andMe, right? So one of them got the haplogroup test, and the other one just took one that was a basic autosome and whatnot, right? So Yacoba shows their full results and whatnot, and he shows again that they're a good 5th European or whatnot. And what's interesting is again they come from Louisiana, and it says England and Northwestern Europe. I want y'all to pay attention to that. The European hits are 14% in England, Northwestern Europe. They got 5% Irish, 2% Norway, 2% Sweden, less than 1% Native American, right? Less than 1%, right? Here's what's interesting. You go to Yacoba, or excuse me, hold on. You go to Teo in 23andMe, they don't show their European ancestry. There's 26% missing off this thing, and they don't show you what that is. They're demanding Yeshub shows you his autosomal DNA, but won't show you what this 26% is. I'm saying when you go into that European stuff, and Teo can easily prove me wrong. I'm speculating that it says French German in that joint. I'm speculating that it says Ashkenazi Jewish at a very significant percentage, like 2, 3, 4%, 5%, maybe 6, 7%. But when you see that French German and you see the Ashkenazi Jewish, wow. And you see that they get the G2A4, wow, okay. That can only come from so many places. They're gonna say, oh, well, Moroccan Jews have it. Ain't got a lick of North African Jewish DNA. They're gonna say, Yemenite Jews have it. Ain't got a lick of Middle Eastern DNA. Moving forward. So this is what we know about their DNA, right? We know that when you average it out, both tests, that they're 75% sub-Saharan African, that they're anywhere from 21 to 24% European, and anywhere from 1 to 4% Native American, right? Roughly. That's me being nice. That's me being nice with it. We know that their Y DNA is G2A4 or G2A2B. And we don't know what their mitochondrial DNA is. So we know that they have a European patrilineal haplogroup. The question is, do they have a European mitochondrial DNA? Do they have a Native American mitochondrial DNA? I'm suspecting they don't have an African mitochondrial DNA. Otherwise, they would have shown it already. And they would have been linking back to Africa that way. I suspect that they descend from people who descend from those slavers on both sides that descend from societies of people who were heavily mulatto for a long time and intermixed with themselves for a long time. That eventually was absorbed into regular African American society. But all of that can be proven out or disproven. Just show the mitochondrial DNA. Just show the same. Show if you show your autosomal DNA like you want your to do. Show the rest of your autosomal DNA from 23andMe and show your mitochondrial DNA from 23andMe. Now this is me. We're gonna get into the whole. I could care less about the phenotype, but based upon their whole joint, like I couldn't be any less Negro than them based upon phenotypes, since they're saying they're red like King David. That's me on the left in the good old Pacific Northwest sun. That's me in the middle in the good old Southwest sun. And that's me on the right. And you can see what's underneath what I wrap up. You know what I'm saying? This is my 23andMe. 46% sub-Saharan African, 38.1% European. Now, this is going to be interesting because of that 38.1%, it's saying 36.4% Spanish Portuguese. So in y'all's model, that's the good European. In y'all's model, that's the good European fam. That's the Sephardic stuff right there, yeah? .1% Ashkenazi Jewish. And if you see my previous videos, you've heard me talk about that, the way that 23andMe and Ancestry, they specifically deal with Ashkenazi DNA. I believe Ancestry is just now beginning to differentiate with Sephardic DNA, etc. But 23andMe only deals with Ashkenazi Jewish DNA, etc. So they typically throw anything that resembles Jewish stuff into Ashkenazi Jewish. All right. I showed that in other videos that in fact my family is of a Sephardic Maghreb DNA, which makes again a whole hell of a lot of sense when you understand the genetic breakdown, right? Which you'll see going further. Again, 14.2% East Asian Indigenous American, of which is 13% Indigenous American, etc. Again, 0.5% North African, Western Asia, which is Egyptian, Arab, Egyptian, and Levantine, right? And they said the subsect is Egyptian, right? Now, that's not mostly European. I don't care how you slice it. That's like 60% not. You know what I'm saying? That's like 60% not European. So no. I have a good chunk of European 100%. Yeah. Like 38% is not a small chunk. That's above a third, right? Almost, yeah, we're talking almost 2/5, right? Cool, got you. But I'm obviously more not European than I am. Not to being European is there's no issue with that. But even of the European that I am, I'm the Southern European that again that Benaya, that Teo and them keep saying is the good European. Moving forward. This is my family tree, right? So this one says I'm 44% West African. Or excuse me, 44% African, right? Including West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, right? What's interesting is I also pull up the some DNA from the horn on this one, right? So I get West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa. You can see the continuity going through, and I get some less than 2% from the horn, right? What's interesting about this here is I get 23% here from the Middle East and North Africa, specifically North Africa. And what you'll find on this test is that I'm 21% European, but I get nothing from the Iberian Peninsula. And what's intriguing about that is it seems as though Family Tree took my Iberian DNA and threw it into North Africa. It's almost like it gave me like the ancestral places of where it comes from versus it's like it took my Iberian DNA and kicked it out of Iberia and showed me where everyone came from to make up the Iberian DNA, right? And you'll see that going forward here to where and again, what's interesting about this is the fact that it seems as though the Eritrean, Northern European, or Northern Ethiopian and Somalian come from my mother, as well as the Middle Eastern, North African side, right? And that's that. You'll see how that plays going forward into my grandfather, my mother's father's DNA, which is EM34, which you find heavily in Ethiopia and you find heavily in the Levant. So you see here my European DNA is at 21%. They say 9% Scandinavian, 5% Central, 8% Slavic. They give me Americas at 11%, and a little bit of Central Asian going to Southern Siberia. And so here is my map for Family Tree. So you can see all my American stuff there. And you'll be able to see how this compares or whatnot to other maps and all that type of stuff, right? So I always tell people, like, if you want the haplogroup stuff, start off with 23andMe because you're going to get the cheapest bang for your buck, or the most bang for your buck with 23andMe in terms of getting both haplogroups and whatnot. However, they're really insensitive when it comes to North African and Middle Eastern DNA. If you want something more sensitive to that, I would suggest getting Family Tree, which you can also double check your haplogroups with. It costs a little bit more, but you can also get something more sensitive with North African DNA with my heritage DNA as well. Oh wow, my man Yeshua just said check your inbox. I sent you my autosomal. He says I get to break the exclusive, son. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Let me. Okay. So is it my Facebook or my Gmail? You shoot. Okay, it's got to be my Facebook. Okay. Wait. My G said, "Let's go." Because I'll finish mine out right quick, and then we'll just deal with your shoes right quick. Oh, yeah, boy. Okay. He laced me up straight. Yeah, boy. Yap exclusive. So this is my heritage DNA, right? So again, hold on, just to be clear on percentages and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? 44% African, 21% European, 23% North African. So do the math there, fam. That's 67% African, 11% American, less than 2% Asian. That's 21% is not majoritively European. This is the highest I get on Western European in any test, fam. And like I said, because it's interesting because it seems like it kicks my Iberian out to where it came from to make up the Iberian Peninsula. But yeah, fam. So again, this is my heritage. You can see the map on the right. Again, you can see North Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, Kenya, etc. So Nigeria, 25.1%, Kenya, 11%, right? 36% so far, right? Sierra Leone, 7.3%. So 42% there, right? North African, 8.8%. Iberian, 24%. Again, this is the good European, right? Baltic, 1.1%. Irish, 1.1%. So like barely any of what y'all are talking about in terms of like some kind of European that you're going to be shunning, etc., which I could care less about. This is all my people. I connect to all this stuff, right? This is my ancestry. I just recently showed this because I recently got the results back, right? And they gave me an update as well, like super fast. And so this one says, I'll find the European right quick. So 19% Spain, right? 6% Southern Italy, so that's 25%. Portugal, 6%, 31%. England, Northwestern Europe, 2%. So we're at 33%. Ireland, 2%, 35%. Jewish people of Europe, 1%, so 36%. Germanic Europe, 37%. Scotland, 1%, so another 30. So again, this one says 38%, just like 23andMe, right? Now, when you break down my African stuff, Nigeria, 18%. Cameroon, Congo, Western Bantu people, 17%. So that's 35% right there. Benin, Togo, 7%. So we're going at 42 now. Mali, 5%. Now we're at 47%. Senegal, we're at 1%. So we're at 48%. Southern Bantu people, 1%. Now we're at 49%. So this is my highest sub-Saharan African out of all the tests at 49%. Again, 38% European, 49% sub-Saharan African. I don't know how I'm mostly European on that one. And again, the Native American, again, 13% when you add it up. Indigenous Americas, Mexico. Indigenous Americas, Colombia, Venezuela. 13% again. Here's my maps. I got two maps. Like I told you, this is the pre-update. This is the updated one. I did the video breaking down that part of it. You know what I'm saying? And here's my averages, fam, when you go through all four of them, right? I average out to sub-Saharan African at 45.65%. North African at 8.075%. European at 30.82%. On average, 22.85% Southern European. So on average, I'm only 8% Western European. 8%. The tail twins are a quarter. A fifth to a quarter, fam. They're 2 to 3 times more Western European than I am. They're 100% more Western European than Ru is. And again, nothing against Western European. We're talking about their model right quick, right? And again, my Native American average is 15.2%, right? You know my Y DNA, and you know my mitochondrial. Now let me hold on. Let me get in this right quick because my man said let's hold on. Let me see how I got to do this because I might have to make this. Oh, he want to do him like that? Oh no. Okay, he did him like that. So I'm gonna share my. I love your shoe. I love your shoe. Yeah, okay. So this is your boy. Yeshub's on the left, Tayu's on the right. Yeshub says sub-Saharan African. 81 point. Hold on, let me make sure. I gotta make this bigger. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Yeshub is 81.5% sub-Saharan African. Tayu is 73.3% sub-Saharan African. So Yeshub is more sub-Saharan African than Tayu is. Check this out. It says here that my G is 45.5% Nigerian, and it says it connects him to the Igbo people, fam. Oh, what? So you're 81.5% sub-Saharan African, the majority of which is Nigerian, of which is saying is Igbo, and we just got confirmation that they're even being confirmed by Jews, by Sephardic Jews, the ones that y'all are saying are good Jews. Yo, stop it. Stop it. Ghanaian, Liberian, and Sierra Leone, 19.9%. Senegambian and Ghanaian, 0.8%. Broadly West African, 4.3%. Congolese and Southeastern African, 8.8%. Angolan and Congolese, 8.4%. Broadly Congolese and Southeast African, 0.4%. African hunter-gatherer, 1.1%. Northeastern African, 0.5%. Oh, what? Sudanese, 0.5%. Wait a minute. You got ties to them areas where they say, close to them areas where they talk about, where they say they believe Israel is and they ain't got no ties to that area, fam? Well, you know what? Don't let me say no ties, because they do got some autosomal ties. It says Southeastern African right there. So let me not do that right quick. Let me not do that right quick. But tell you, I would love to see you post the update. Let's see where you connect to Nigeria, because they're connecting everybody in Nigeria. Let's see where you connect to, fam. Let's see what the rest of the autosomal DNA is. Oh, let me see what else he sent me, because I got a few over here. Oh, what? Well, look, he sent me the whole joint from Ancestry. So it says Nigeria, 46%. This is Yeshub now. Cameroon, Congo. Oh, let me get my calculator out right quick. So 46% from Nigeria, plus 18% from Cameroon, Congo, and Western Bantu people, plus 13% from Mali. My homie, my brother from Mali. What's good, homie? Shout out to the Mali DNA. 3% from Benin and Togo. 2% from Ivory Coast, Ghana. 1% from Senegal. That equals 83% sub-Saharan. Now let's calculate up his European, yeah? Scotland, 5%. Sweden and Denmark, 3%. England and Northwestern Europe, 2%. Germanic people, 1%. Wales, 1%. Yeah, I would love for y'all to post your update on this as well, because I got an update, and I'm curious to see if your update puts you with Germanic peoples as well. But that's 12% for you, boy. 12 to year 20. Yeah. Going further. Let's see what else he sent me. I'm doing this one live. Oh. There we go. Oh, that's the other half of the 23andMe. There we go. So 17%, 17.9% European, of which is Northwestern European, 16.4% British Irish, 1.1% French German. And see, this is what I'm saying, fam. I'm thinking that part right there for Teo and them is a lot higher than they want to admit. Hence, they're not trying to show it. What's interesting in this is you get Scandinavian and broadly Northwestern European, no Ashkenazi Jew. I'm saying if Teo and them were to show this, you would see high percentages of French and German and Ashkenazi Jew, which is why they don't show this. That's what's up, you shoe. Let me make sure this is still sharing. Yeah, you can see that. Oh, I got. Man, I didn't even see you shoot. My fault. I was too busy sharing screen. But he jumped on for a quick second. But he gave me his auto. So he's gonna shoot when he get off work. I know that's what's up. I can't wait for that show. He gonna bust shots. So now Yeshub showed his DNA. You seen all mine. Ibri showed his. Rue showed his. Shari's been on and showed hers on my show. So yeah, been done shown their DNA, fam. When y'all gonna show yours, fam? But now I gotta keep going. We finna make a Japanese meal right quick. Hold on. Oh, it did me like that. Hold on. I tried to skip some slides. I thought it was gonna skip me all the way down, but because this was a long presentation. So let me just go ahead and jump on down to this. For y'all that missed it. So the other day I did a 5-hour show and I got into my paternal haplogroups and my maternal haplogroups, etc. And so this is what you get from 23andMe. So this is what Teo and them got from 23andMe. This is what 23andMe tells y'all about haplogroups and Y DNA, etc. Right? It says each generation fathers pass copies of their Y chromosomes to their sons, whereas most of the genome exists in 2 copies that exchange pieces between generations in a process called recombination. The Y chromosome is transmitted unshuffled. Because of this unusual pattern of inheritance, the Y contains rich information about paternal lineages. A small number of DNA changes called mutations generally occur from one generation to the next, because the Y chromosome does not recombine between generations. These mutations accumulate in patterns that uniquely mark individual lineages, and scientists can compare the resulting sequence differences by constructing a tree. This tree shows how paternal lineages relate to one another, including the observations that all human paternal lineages share a most recent common ancestor, approximately 275,000 years ago. And again, that's the most recent common. I don't need to get in that part. The term haplogroup refers to a family of lineages that share a common ancestor and therefore a particular set of mutations. One more time. The term haplogroup refers to a family of lineages that share a common ancestor and therefore a particular set of mutations. Each paternal haplogroup is named with the letter indicating the major cluster of branches to which it belongs, followed by the name of mutation that is shared by a subset of the major cluster. We identify your haplogroups by determining which branches of the Y chromosome tree correspond to your DNA, because more closely related lineages tend to share geographic roots. Your haplogroup can provide insight into the origins of some of your ancient ancestors. So it told me that my joint was EL34, right? Of which you can see when it's talking about these accumulation of mutations on the Y chromosome. Going back to this, you can see going back to A, right? And this is how you kill this whole, well, everyone should have the same haplogroup if we go back to Adam. Well, if you're a guy, you kind of do. We all go back to Adam as the top of the mountain. We just have a different route of getting there, is what it's saying. Chromosomal Adam, right? So for Yap Gang, this is going to be Noah, right? And some people would even say this is going to be one of or this is going to be one of the descendants of Noah, etc. However you want to look at it, right? I've heard people talk about it different ways, like in their arguments with different people, etc. Right? Got you, right? But bottom line is this, right? You have a set of mutations that I inherit that are going to be different than other people, right? Because not everyone shares the same mutations. Because there's these different mutations on the Y chromosome, we know that there's different lineages. If it was just going to be one haplogroup from Adam, there would be no mutations found in other populations. It would only be one thing, one clean chromosome, no mutations. But we find these other subset of mutations and different accumulations of said mutations. Hence, I go from A to DE, shout out to the Yap, EM96, and it drops down from EM96 to EO94, right? Now, as I stated earlier, I do not think, and via the Yap model, I do not think that my paternal DNA is the DNA of Abraham. I do not think so. I do think it's Shemitic. I do not think it is Israelite. I do not think it's Israelite. But I do think when you compare it to what I'm about to show you and other things, like my like my connection to the Yoruba and the Igbo, etc., via my autosomal DNA, that it seems that my father's people would have been sojourning with people who had Israelite practices for a long time, including my mother's father's DNA. So again, I'm EM132. I'll quickly read this. Your paternal line stems from a branch of haplogroup E called EM132, which is seen at low frequencies in the Bahamas and on the islands of Abaco, Eleuthera, Exuma, Grand Bahama, and Long Island. This is a likely reflection of historical movement of African and Creole slaves before and after the abolition of slavery in 1807. Over 25% of slaves transported to the Bahamas during the slave trade were from West and Central Africa, which is consistent with the most common location of EM132. Lower numbers of slaves were taken from other ports in Africa, including those along the Gold Coast, and Windward Coast, and the Bight of Biafra. Many African ethnic groups were victims of the transatlantic slave trade, including the Fulani and Hausa, two groups in which your haplogroup are heavily represented. Now, here's the big elephant in the room. This is saying that you can find my haplogroup in Africa, in West Africa, amongst the place where slaves were taken. There's no science anywhere that says that G2A4 was amongst anybody in West Africa that was ever put on a slave ship. Ever. Period. If you got something, bring. I will gladly, humbly check myself live on air. EM132 is also known as EM33 or E1A. Its possible date of origin is circa 50,000 years ago. Now, again, they're young Earth creationists. They don't got to rock with this, right? Young Earth creationists have models that deal with putting the haplogroups within the young Earth model, fam. So y'all can gaslight about the 50,000 years all you want to. It doesn't matter. You put it in the young Earth model, what is it saying? It's older than EP2. It's older than E1B, E1A, older than E1B, B1B, etc. It's older. It's an older Shem, is what it would be saying on in the young Earth model. EM132 branches off from EP147, which possibly originates 50,000 years ago, etc., which in turn branches off from EM96 that possibly originates 65,000 years ago, etc., right? In Eastern Africa or Western Asia. Boy, I can't wait for that David Wright paper to come out, fam. Oh, man. If there's EM... Anyway, I got to leave that one alone for right now. EM132 is found distributed throughout Africa and can be found in Sudan, Cameroon, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, Burkina Faso, Senegal, Senegambia, Ghana, and Morocco, etc., including Egypt, fam. EM132 E1A has also been found among the fossils of the original inhabitants of the Canary Islands. That's off the coast of North Africa. There's no map they're going to show you where G2A4 is anywhere in Africa like this. Now, if it is, I'm going to do something like for the Tail Twins, like that I did for myself. Like, so for me, you're going to see me run through my patrilineal DNA right quick. and connected to certain things, right? You're gonna see me do the same thing for my mother's father, right? And I'm gonna try to do the same thing for them, right? So you can see where the Fulani carry my haplogroup. And you can find the Fulani all over the place, right? But the Fulani in Cameroon, Sudan, and Burkina Faso were found with this haplogroup. And I'm specifically going to stick to tribes that came off the slave ship, because there's other people who didn't that also have this haplogroup. But I'm sticking to people we know came off the slave ship. The Hausa were found to have this haplogroup at 60% in Sudan. The Wolof were found to have this haplogroup at 12% in Senegambia. The Sahrawi people in Burkina Faso, and they come from like Morocco, Mauritania, and whatnot, right? But the Sahrawi people in Burkina Faso also have this haplogroup, and you can find this haplogroup in Morocco as well. The people of Mali, or the Mandinka, the Mande people, have this haplogroup at 3% in West Africa. The Gadangbe people of Ghana also have this haplogroup at 3%. The Fante of Ghana have this haplogroup at 3%. You know, I'm going to skip my mitochondrial DNA because they didn't show theirs, and I've already shown mine. So I'm not even going to get into that part. But this is why I'm going to show this part right quick, though. This is why I think they're claiming, or they think they made the claim, or that they're trying to claim that their mom was L, or the mitochondria was L, but they're not giving you a specific one, right? Is because just like with my paternal DNA, when it gives you the mitochondrial, it shows you all the other mutations that are on that chromosome going back to L. So if you're a man, it's going to give you mutations going back to A. If you're a woman, it's going to give you mutations going back to L. So I'm A2G, which is a Native American haplogroup. And you can see its migration, right? I'll give you that much for right now. Well, you know what? I'll quickly run through it for you. You can see my haplogroup amongst and this is why haplogroups are good, fam, because you can use haplogroups for migration patterns. They show you where your lineage came from, where they were going, who they mixed with, etc. Like, so for instance, my man's lineage shows that for a long time he was like, they were European, and then started mixing in the short term with West Africans, which is why they don't show you their DNA map or their DNA history map on the 23andMe. But again, you can see the Eskimo people have my mitochondrial. You can see the Nooksack people have my mitochondrial in British Columbia. Again, my people come from the Bering Straits, Lake Athabasca, come down the west coast of America, end up in the Southwest. Like the Apache, who have my mitochondrial. Like the Nahua, that got my mitochondrial. Like the Navajo, who I know for a fact I connect to and descend from, have my mitochondrial. The Tibetans have my mitochondrial. Hence, you can see this migration going from Northeast Asia to the Americas. And then, again, this is what DNA is great for, what the haplogroups are great for. The Zuni have this in the Southwest. Shout out to my Zuni people, right? The Korean people have this haplogroup. Again, showing the migration from east to west. The Japanese have this. Again, shout out to my G in Japan. You know what I'm saying? Me and I as kinfolk. You know what I'm saying? Or me and I got kinfolk. Shout out to Judah Nazareth. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if I is A, bruh, me and I are kinfolks. You know what I'm saying? And there's I would love to see I's DNA, my G. I think y'all should take DNA tests, man. I think people would love to see that. I really do. Because I comes from like a really old strand of Japanese people. You can tell by her features, man. The Han people of China have this, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know what? Let me go back a space right quick, because I want to say something to my man Judah and whatnot. So to be clear, in the YAP model, there are people in Japan that are Shemitic. There is DE people, like people descend from DE in Japan. So you talk a lot about interlinking culture and whatnot, like the Shamure and also some other things, right? Well, you can find linkages with the DE and also people in Japan like that. You know what I'm saying? So in the YAP model, there's Shemitic people in Japan. And if they went to Japan, they might have mixed with A, you know what I'm saying? Just saying. And again, shout out to the Yakima people, you know what I'm saying, in the Northwest where I'm living right now. They also share this, showing the migration, which is what this is good for. Again, this is what haplogroups are fantastic for. They can show you where you're going. They can show you back migrations, all that type of stuff. But that's why they don't want to show you their full DNA, because if they do, you'll see the migration pattern. Oh, okay. Let me look at your DNA. Oh, okay. Let me see your haplogroups. Okay, cool. Let me see you got 2 European haplogroups, or you got until y'all prove me otherwise, y'all got 2 European haplogroups, man. I'm putting that whole lifestyle on you, fam. If I'm mostly European, y'all got 2 European haplogroups, fam. Until you prove me wrong. But this is what haplogroups are good for. If they have 2 European haplogroups, it shows that migration they're up. And it shows in their DNA history that they've recently mixed with African people. Recently. Be transparent with the info, fam. We have an obligation to be transparent with the information we share with the people we're talking to. So to the end, like I showed you earlier, like I showed you that I had an update to my ancestry. I didn't have to show you the update. I could have showed you my original stuff that wasn't updated and show you that I had no European Jewish at all in my update, right? But no, I showed you that I had the update, which did in fact change some of my stuff. It put some of my Norwegian, etc., into French into to Germany and also to the European Jewish area, right? I'm not ashamed of that, though. That doesn't go against my model. Because in my model, there's some people, not a lot, but there's some people of Ashkenazi descent that descend from Shem. And some in the subsect of them have a shot at being legitimate blood descendants of Israel and Abraham. Not a lot of them, but some of them. I can't deny that, fam. But being transparent, I showed you both maps. You get to see both, fam. I showed you. This is where they change, right? You can see I got all the previous info. I could have just showed you this, but I didn't just show you that. I showed you the change, fam. Being transparent with the thing. I even show you where they changed up my Native American stuff. But for the sake of transparency, I show you the change. Because if y'all are listening to what I'm saying, there's a lot of people who take what I say and run with it. Don't double check what I'm saying because they're like, you know what? More fact checks a lot of stuff. I trust more. That's a huge responsibility, fam. That's why I stay transparent. I tell people double check me all the time. But there's some people who won't because they don't got the time to. So I stay transparent. I'm going to show you my DNA from ancestry so you can see what it is. But I already ran through this, right? But again, y'all are demanding autosomal results y'all haven't shown. Show us your 23andMe autosomal results. Prove me to be a liar, because I'm telling you, you're not showing it because it says French German at a high percentage, because it says Ashkenazi at a high percentage. I bet y'all got more Ashkenazi Jewish than Garfield, who's at 3.9% in 23andMe. I promise you you're above 3.9%. Is that bad? Not for me and my model. Doesn't bother us at all. Yeah, game model doesn't bother us at all. Y'all are the ones having this purity test of you have to be Negro only to be Israel. That does not make sense genetically. And your own DNA is telling you that's not what's happening with you. And y'all are hiding stuff too. We see you hiding all out in the open. So check this out, fam. We all know the Jet Match thing, right? It gives you 20 results back. This is their MDLP world results, right? They want to show you the limba again, which Rue is way closer than, right? But they want to cut it off at the bottom and not show you that 20th result. They don't want to show you that 20th result. Why is that? Why is that? I'm saying it's because it's going to show up Ashkenazi in some way, shape, or form. You can see my results on the right. Same thing, MDLP world. I got 20 on there. And you see 3 groups of Jewish people. You see Ethiopian Jews, which, again, closer distance. Ashkenazi Jews, closer distance than anything they're connected to Jewish. And Algerian Jew, just like them. 3 populations. Now, fam, I would really have a lot of respect for you, and I could really understand your claims. Let's say you're L. Let's say you're like L2, and you showed that. I'd be like, you know what? This makes sense to me. You probably connect through your mother's lineage on some stuff. There's Moroccan Jews with L. There's people in East Africa who got L. Makes a lot of sense, right? There might even be some Ashkenazi women that got L. Don't know. But you're going to share mitochondrial DNA with a lot more than just one Jewish population if you got it. So why be ashamed of connecting to more of them? Because again, if you know enough about history, you know the Ashkenazi population is a mixed European population. And a lot of them got mixed up with the Sephardic people. But again, you're not being transparent. You're not showing your 20th joint. And I promise you it says Ashkenazim, fam. I promise you it does. I promise you it does. So I'm saying that you got to update. From 23andMe and from Ancestry. Show us your updates. I'm saying that your 23andMe is not showing an African mitochondrial DNA, but 2 European haplogroups, mitochondrial and Y DNA. I'm saying that your 23andMe is stating that you're a significant portion of that 26% that they're not showing, French and German. And of another significant percentage is going to be Ashkenazi Jewish, above 3.9% of what Garfield has. You can prove me wrong all day by showing it, fam. But you know what? When you don't show it, everyone's also going to know that I'm right. And we're all showing our DNA, fam. What they say, fam, source up or shut up? Yo. And look at this here. Shout out to Abu. I didn't even catch this. They put out their mixed mode population sharing in this joint, fam, and cut off the second population and the percentages. Why? Because it says Ashkenazim on there somewhere. How do I know? Man, well, let's look at mine. Jeez. That's what it's supposed to look like. 2 populations, not 1. Hence, it's a mixed mode population sharing. Again, you can see the limber and all that type of stuff. Like they wanted to show you, oh, but what else do you see? You see Ashkenazim. You see Jew Romania. You might see some Greek stuff on, huh? Now, for me, the Jew Romania and this stuff, that makes sense because I have Mediterranean. They don't. So their joint's going to say Ashkenazim and some. That's like straight Germanic. It ain't no mixed with the Sephardic. No, that's Germanic fan because they got no Spanish DNA, no Spain Portugal. And just show you again to show you how this looks. This is me. This is my DNA in Dode Cat Africa 9. You can see my top hit is Moroccan Jews and the distance and whatnot, North African Jews, etc. Shout out to the Fulani, you know what I'm saying, for my man Ibri. And you can see my mixed mode populations, what it mixes with. How the 2 percentages come together and they give you a distance, just like it's the rate, just like it's a single population. Why didn't you show us the mixed mode populations, fam? So now I need to see the update from Ancestry that says that you're not showing because it says that you're Germanic and that you're European Jewish. I need to see your update from 23andMe. What what African tribe you connect to in Nigeria. I need to see your mitochondrial DNA, and I need to see all your European mitochondrial or European autosomal DNA that you didn't show. And now I need to see your mixed mode population sharing from the MDLP world joint, fam. Just to consider you halfway honest. Like I'm saying, you Candyland Israelites and your conundrum trying to, oh my God, trying to colonize the minds of the people, fam. Whoa, what's this? German coast settlements in Louisiana. German coast settlements in Louisiana. This can't be why you're not showing your DNA. This can't possibly. I know those aren't a whole bunch of German plantations in Louisiana. Those bet not be a whole bunch, man. My eyes must be lying to me, fam. Let me check this out. Hold on. Settlement of the German coast. Okay, this is what's on this board here. Okay. It says, of the thousands that departed France, only 300 German immigrants trickled into the French colony of Louisiana in 1721, diluted by John Law's Company of the West propaganda describing Louisiana as a land filled with gold, silver, copper, and lead mines. These Germans were given land on the coast about 25 miles from New Orleans, where they built 3 villages, Hoffen, Marienthal, and Augsburg, modeled upon European towns in which houses were stretched out along the only road running through the village. Germans readily married into French families, adopted the French language, and even accepted Gaelicized versions of their names. What? Crops planted their first year were tobacco, corn, rice, beans, peas, and other vegetables. These men had plantations, fam. These men had plantations, fam. So we got a German coast in Louisiana where the Germans are intermixing with the French and even taking Gaelicized versions of their names, fam. But they got a big set of plantations. Oh, look at this. 1811, German Coast Uprising. The biggest slave rebellion in U.S. history. I'm going to repeat that one more time. The biggest slave rebellion in U.S. history is in 1811 on German coast, Louisiana. They didn't want to be Candyman Israelites no more. You know what I'm saying? Here's what we know about G2A4 is that we find that joint in France, and it's also known as G2AB. And we find that joint in Germany. Shout out to the Germans. Now, some say that this man with G2A4 YDNA could give rise to a nation of black Israelites that could only have black children. I don't know about that. But I know this, right? I know that this cracked me up left, right, and center because they were talking about Spain and Portugal DNA confirms their history, and these men ain't got a lick of Spanish or Portuguese DNA. So now they want to be all kind of Moors and whatnot, and ain't got no Moorish DNA. They got my man over here looking. I'm like, what's going on with y'all, fam? Y'all don't want to claim me as daddy? They got me over here like this.
Holla at me.
What they do? 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 What they What they What they What they do?
Yeah, the doctrine is crazy, fam. I don't know where these special Israelites are that you know what I'm saying, that got this G2A4, but they only make black children, right? Because if and it, again, like Ibri keeps pointing out, can you show me them people in Africa, fam? Can you show me them people in Africa, fam? Can you show me them people in Africa going forward? I pointed this out the other night, but I'm gonna point this out again, right? So this is such hilarious. Again, this is the Candyland Israelite conundrum. This is the Mexican standoff they got y'all in right now, right? So you got Teo Ministries, right? Talking about they don't believe Native Americans and Latino people can be Israelites, right? Spain and Portugal proves the DNA, but Latino people can't be Israelites. Going like talking to Sakari, trying to get in their good graces and whatnot. At the same point in time, they believe if you're majoritively European, you can't be an Israelite. So Al-Azhar is definitely over 50% European. So via their model, Al-Azhar can't be an Israelite, yet they're reaching out to him, right? Via their own model, Yeshub is more of an Israelite than they are because he's more sub-Saharan African and has, just more sub-Saharan African. He even has ties to East Africa, Northeast Africa, etc. Right? They're reaching out to Dante and Benaiah, and we woke now, which is crazy to me because Benaiah, like I said, and we woke now was on a documentary talking about E1B1A is a thing, right? Which shoots at Dante. Dante's E1B1B. It shoots at Sakari. They're R1B, or they shoots at Al-Azhar, at least he's R1B. Shoots at Teonim. They're G2A4. They're in this crazy Mexican standoff. So like Al-Azhar is talking about the E1B1B can't, or E1B1A can't be the thing. E1B1B can't be the thing. So he's shooting at Dante and shooting at Benaiah. And again, they're in this crazy Mexican standoff. And the only thing they can agree on is the skin doctrine. If you're black, you're an Israelite. If you're white, you can't be. Out of all that confusion, that's the only thing they agree on. And it's enough to where they can all kick it. But while shooting at each other, fam. But Teo got no smoke for Benaiah. No smoke for we would now. Got all the smoke for us. Got all the smoke for us. Yeah, y'all definitely got to pause, Granddad. 100%. Y'all got to slow this thing all the way down. Yeah, this is the infamous GMAP. Hold on. Let me see. Let me get into this right quick. Yeah, this is them fabricating the GMAP. So, yeah, this happened with Ibri on a debate on Sister E's channel where they fabricated a GMAP to make it seem like their haplogroup was in Africa somewhere and also in the Levant, which it's not. And so I'm not just going to show you this map. I'm going to show you where they got it from. Here's the actual GMAP. I'm saying they copied a JMAP. Here's the actual GMAP. And again, nowhere in West Africa. Nowhere in West Africa. Their GMAP, the real GMAP. Again, nowhere in West Africa. Nowhere in West Africa. This is a JMAP. Not the same JMAP. I'm going to show you the JMAP that they took this from. But this is a JMAP. You can see where the dark spots correlate, overlap, etc. But I'm going to keep this moving because this is super interesting. Yeah, my fault. My fault. I got that misplaced. But this is their joint, right? This is the phylogeny of their G2A, right? And where it comes from, right? So we're talking about G2A, right? Neolithic Anatolia splits off. We see the split. We see you go down this split here. We go Neolithic Croatia, Germany, Italy. And we see Otzi the Iceman, who has the same haplogroup that they have, and we see that going into Europe, and then we see that going into Morocco, Arabia, South Asia, and whatnot. Super interesting because when you know history, that makes a lot of sense. How did How did these European Germanic haplogroups get into North Africa, fam? Anybody ever heard of the Goths and the Visigoths? Anyway. So this is a list of Jews that actually have haplogroup G. Now, they'll want to tell you that Moroccan Jews have it and the Yemenite Jews have it. See, that's the thing right there. But they don't got a lick of North African DNA. They don't got a lick of Yemenite DNA. They'll tell you the Sephardic Jews have it. They don't got a lick of Spanish or Portuguese DNA, fam. Again, all the European DNA is Western European, not Southern European, Western European. But I'm gonna do y'all solid. I'm gonna run y'all through the Jews that have G and see what it looks like for y'all. Like I just ran through my haplogroups and whatnot, right? But before I do that, we're gonna do it like this. We see that the Moroccan Jews, like they're gonna claim, have G at 26.3%. This is via Moroccan Y DNA. This EM123 is an upward clad of my maternal grandfathers, and this EM33 is what I am. And you can see in certain spots that you can see this hidden. I'm going to show you a couple of the pictures where what I do is where I click this icon right here, and I show you the highest. I'm showing you the highest frequencies of each one. So this is the highest frequency of G. Next, I'm going to show you the highest frequency of EM33. This is mine, right? So again, you see it amongst the Moroccan, Sahrawi, etc. But you see mine there, right? At 8, you see mine there. Now I'm going to show you EM123, which is my maternal grandfather's haplogroup, right? You already see it there with the Sahrawi people, right? But you see it with the Berbers and with the Sahrawi, right? So what does this mean in the percentage differences, right? Well, mine's older, my grandfather's is older, and the G's didn't show up till way later. So all three of our DNA is there. But mine and my grandfather's were there long before the G, fam. Long before the G. This is my grandfather's DNA, right? My maternal grandfather, right? They're going to say that my maternal grandfather can't be an Israelite because he's not Negro looking. Even though he's got North African, East African, Iberian DNA, all that. His DNA literally connects to people of Jordan, Ethiopia. Check this out. Libyan Jews, Ethiopian Jews, Yemenite Jews, Sephardic Jews, Ashkenazi Jews. Theirs doesn't connect like that, fam. They connect to a lot of people in Ethiopia, a lot of people in Levant, just like you see with the M34. You got 2 big pockets of that. What pocket of people in the Levant and Africa does G connect to for you? That our people connect to? We haven't seen it yet. In fact, this is what we see, right? So this is again from the Moroccan Y DNA haplogroup thing. And I want y'all to check this out, right? So we see, well, first and foremost, look at that there on the top right. It says haplogroup J. Don't that map look familiar? So for the people that were claiming that the Moroccan Jews had G and were making this fabricated map, I wonder where y'all got that from. On this Moroccan page for what YDNA talks about, it shows the haplogroup J map that y'all stole. And look at that. It even shows a map of EM123. It even shows the EM123, fam. So that, like my grandfather's DNA, my maternal grandfather, who doesn't look Negro, his DNA is all over North Africa, East Africa, the Levant, the Mediterranean, Arabia, all, man. Haplogroup J. This is that map they took again from the Moroccan Y DNA joint. This is that. This is the haplogroup J map. They're saying they don't know why anyone takes us seriously. Fam, y'all don't got a legit leg to stand on ever. Again, this is your G map that you showed on Sister E's channel that Ibri called you on, and that was the J map. But now let me do you a solid. These are the Jews that all have G. The Moroccan Jews, the Libyan Jews, the Iraqi Jews, the Sephardic Jews, the Mountain Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, the Indian Jews, the Yemenite Jews, and the Georgian Jews. Shout out to Georgia, fam. Now, none of these cats are Negro in their phenotype, but these are the Jews you connect to. These are the only Jews you connect to via your haplogroup. Somebody's motto got to change, fam. Because y'all are out here running amok. Y'all are out here running amok, fam. In a whole Candyland conundrum that doesn't make any kind of logical sense, fam. It don't make no type of logical sense. No type of logical sense. So, yeah, I feel like my G need to come get his boys because they're definitely acting up again. And they don't want to just own up to the fact that they're not telling the full story. They got a whole story they need to own up to. And they're also not telling the truth to the people. If you're claiming that you're Israel, you're claiming that you descend from a nation of people that takes in sojourners, of which are recognized just like they're Israelites. So no one's saying that you can't be a national Israelite in the YAP model, right? No one's saying that you can't sojourn. We're all saying the same thing. I'm saying the same thing about myself that I'm saying about y'all. Our fathers do not descend from Abraham via the YAP model. Me, you, Alizar, our fathers don't descend from that. All of us have the right to cling to the thing and claim this and cling to the nation through that. All of us have the right to look at our autosomal DNA and recognize that we're highly connected to Israelite people in West Africa and claim descendancy from sojournership from that, or be a first generation convert and or revert. Because again, all of us doing the revert thing are doing that same thing. We're reverting back to a culture that we have to swear ourselves to. It ain't no different than converting, fam. But the issue is y'all want to be on some supremacy type stuff. And that's an issue. That's why all the fabrication has to happen. That's why all the lies got to happen. That's why all the finger pointing got to happen. That's why y'all got to gaslight. The day after my G actually makes a show showing his DNA, y'all got to come out saying he's an Edomite. And he's more sub-Saharan African than y'all. Yeshub's more sub-Saharan African than y'all. Y'all got to eat your words. I'm not mostly European, even though it doesn't even matter. But one day it's the white man science when we're talking about haplogroups, and another day it's good science when it's paternity test on autosomal testing. We're still waiting on your autosomal DNA testing model that goes back to ancient ancestry. We're still waiting on that. We're still waiting how you have a better model with autosomal DNA than haplogroup DNA, right? We're still waiting for that. We're 100% still waiting for that. Real quick, Abu, did I show the DNA samples coming out of Egypt and Israel in this show that are J1, J2, R1B, E1B1A, E1B1B, etc.? Yeah. They claim that Wikipedia changed the GMAP. Please go watch Abu's video on that. Please watch Abu's video on that. Hey, Mo, I see you in the background, fam. Give me just a second, homie. So, hold on. Let me double check and make sure I didn't breeze past that. Because, again, I'm the person who deals with the mixed multitude model for YAP, right? And I deal with my model based upon ancient DNA. Oh, yeah, I had one more. There we go. I definitely wanted to show that. Definitely wanted to show that. So this is a trip thing. I was showing this with my joint with Alizar and whatnot. Because Alizar in their model, they got Dante being Judah. They got my grandfather. This is my grandfather in the middle on my mom's side, right? And this is Einstein on the right. So Alizar would have Dante and my grandfather being Israelites, but Einstein wouldn't. And they all have a form of E1B1B that comes from the Tufians and whatnot, and they're all subclades of each other, etc. Right? Meaning that they share paternal ancestry. Now the Teo twins would say that Dante is an Israelite, but my grandfather is not, and neither is Einstein. And if I understand this correctly, Einstein is an upward clade from my grandfather, who is also an upward clade from Dante. Meaning that they would say that they all have paternal lineage, Dante coming from this one, but these two are not Israelites, but Dante is, based upon phenotype alone. Now, one more time, I got to double check this. Just make sure I'm not missing it. Where did I get into it? Yeah, I'm going to let you live on that one. I'm going to let you live on that one. Yeah, I'll do this right quick. Yeah, this is my grandfather's DNA. My maternal grandfather's DNA, right? So based upon what Teo and them are teaching, my grandfather's DNA from people who came from Afro-Asiatic places, so he shouldn't be light-skinned. He should stay black the whole time. Like these people in these pictures here, like in Jordan, where they got his DNA at 31%. Again, in Ethiopia. These people shouldn't have this haplogroup, and they can't claim descendancy from it because they're too light-skinned based upon Teo and them. Although the Jews they connect to are all this color. Again, you see it in Ethiopia. Again, with the Sahrawi people, right? Uh-oh. Again, the Jews got it. Sephardic Jews got it. Ashkenazi Jews got it. How dare they? Again, other people from the wife from Ethiopia have it. But again, it either descends from Ethiopia or the Levant, right? That's what the scientists say, right? Because that's where the two oldest pockets of the stuff come from, right? So either or via y'all's model, light-skinned people shouldn't have this because if this DNA should keep them black, fam. If you're black with DNA, it should keep you black. It shouldn't get lighter. But we all know that's not the case. We all know that's not the case. Oh, Yemenite Jews also have this joint? Now, again, there's Yemenite Jews that look like this, and Yemenite Jews that look like the ones that have G. Where's the ones that look like this that have G? Since y'all are stuck on phenotype, prove out the phenotype. If it's physical, let it be physical. If it's spiritual, let it be spiritual. And that's the thing. Y'all want to make this a spiritual thing and a physical thing at the same time. And you can't do it, fam. Because if it's physical, then it's all phenotype. Then you got no gripe with me. You got no gripe with Yeshua. You got no gripe with Ru. You got no gripe with Ibri. No gripe with nobody in Yab Gang. The police would all identify all of us as black males on site. And if it's spiritual, then let it be spiritual, fam. That means this phenotype got nothing to do with it. Got nothing to do with it. But you're applying it just because people don't want to go by the curses and mark that as what makes someone in Israel. And phenotype and curses. You got to be black and have the curses. No, if you don't agree with that, you're automatically Edom. Again, I ain't going to go through all of it, but you see what it is, right? My grandfather's too light to have this haplogroup. He must have stolen it from somebody, fam. He must have stolen it, fam. And again, I'll just go through this real quick and shut it down. So they want to make the same play that Alazar was talking about a lot of times, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like we should all, if the haplogroup thing was cool, we should all have that. We should all have the same haplogroup, you know what I'm saying? All people are one blood, etc. Right? Again, this is me talking about why the atom, that whole, like, we should all have atoms, a haplogroup doesn't work. It does not work. But this is how Yap runs it down, right? They have a 3 major paragroup model coming from Noah, to where his sons have 3 major paragroups, as what we see happening in the world. You see the AB paragroup, which they would call Ham, which is mostly amongst the pygmies in Africa, right? There is the DE paragroup, right? Which the Yap gang calls Shem, right? You see it going off into Asia and in Africa, whatnot. There is the paragroup of, and again, you see E, how it breaks off. You see D, how it breaks off right quick. You got the CFCT lineage, right? That's Japheth in the Yap model. Again, F is Japheth, CF is Japheth. Of that, we see all these lineages that come from that F. That Yap is saying is also Japheth. Yap is not saying that none of these people are barred from sojourning and being part of national Israel. Yap is not saying that you're not going to find any of these haplogroups in ancient dig sites. Yap is saying we should expect to see a blend of these haplogroups and whatnot. But amongst all of that, there's going to be the essential tribal haplogroups of tribal Israel coming from Abraham, Sarah, etc., whatnot, right? And their lineage and their religion and their progeny, etc. Now, y'all want to talk about like the whole like, well, you can't use the haplogroups because they use thousands and thousands of years in their time model, and the Bible only talks about 6,000 years, etc. Fam, I need you to go confront the young Earth creationists who are doing this right now, who have a genetic front-loading model for haplogroups and DNA within a young Earth model. They're doing it left, right, and center. They got books and papers on this stuff right now, fam. If you're a young Earth creationist, like, and you're trying to say that you got to go at your own people at this juncture, fam. Don't take the shots at us, fam. That ain't got nothing to do with us, fam. You got your own people talking about the concept of genetic entropy that coincides with this whole concept of genetic front loading, to where you get these different haplogroups based upon mutations, and the mutations happening because of the genetic entropy. So y'all got to catch up to y'all's own model, fam. Y'all got to catch up to the young Earth model, fam, because they're using science just like we are. Just like we are, fam. Oh, and that's Alazar's joint. Oh, let me see. Let me double check and make sure I didn't skip, because I feel like I skipped a joint. I feel like I skipped. I'm going to skip. Actually, I am going to skip all that stuff. There we go. I did miss it. So I deal with the mixed multitude, right? And the essential, where my mixed multitude starts from, is I'm going to see what was there in the Levant in Egypt and whatnot. What was there in the Levant in Egypt? And what we can find. And this is why haplogroups are fantastic, because you can go back in time past the 500 years of your autosomal DNA, thousands of years. And we can see in places like in Egypt and in Israel, where there was J, E, and R. We got J1, J2, E1B1B, R1B in Israel, J in Israel, R1B, E1B1A, E1B1A. All that's going to be part of the basal mixed multitude. There's probably going to be other haplogroups, and as we get more findings from more bodies, we're going to add to this model, right? I'm sure you're going to find EP2 somewhere in there. Hell, you might even find G, my homie. But if you find it, it's going to be part of the tribal joint. Like in our model, it's not going to be part of the national. Now I've heard y'all talking like, well, yeah, what I mixed multitude was all black people. Okay, that does nothing for lineage if they all have different haplogroups, fam. If they have different haplogroups. But I'm going to leave it right there. I see my man Mo is patiently waiting. Oh, let me see what he got. Peace and blessings, Mo. How you doing?
What's going on with you, brother? How you doing?
Is your question about DNA, genetics, or something else for right now?
It's all of it. It's all of it. It's just basically on your presentation.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Sure, man. So I've been trying to understand this whole thing with the Hebrew Israelites. It's always confusing to me. From your presentation and from the little bit that I catch here and there, it seems like this whole DNA thing is starting to become, the main face of their argument as to their connection to Israel. But my question is when someone goes off this idea that somehow DNA is going to confirm genetics, is it not begging the question that, or at least assuming that the same people have been in the same area for, let's say, hundreds, if not thousands of years? For example, if you was to take DNA from somebody from the US, from the United States today, right? 99.9% of the time, it's not going to show that you are from the United States. It's going to show you are from somewhere else, unless you're a Native American or somebody who is native here, showing that population migrations happen all the time. So wouldn't it be, I'm trying to understand, how does this work? Because from my understanding of how the DNA testing works is it's based off of basically matching DNA from people all around the world. So you have to have, most of the time, it's going to be somebody who's a living distant relative who's somewhere else who might have the same markers that you have. So me, I'm Ethiopian. My father is Tigray. My mom is Amharian. So if you was to trace it, you can show where the majority of my ancestors today would be at, where they're located. And my question is how or why are people assuming that these people were in these places in the first place? So, for example, in Egypt, I know that they've been finally, not too long ago, were able to recently, test the DNA of mummies. Well, it was hard. First of all, it was hard to do it because anybody who knows, anything about DNA or anything inside of biology knows that decomposition happens fast. And unless it's preserved in a specific, special type of way, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to even last, 10, 15, 20 years before it's just completely gone. You might have bones, but you're not pulling DNA out of those bones. Nothing that's really viable. So my question
you can pull DNA out of a bone from the ear. That's what
you can, but my point is you can only do that in certain locations. So say, for example, when you're talking about the DNA of a mummy, well, mummies were preserved. And even then, sometimes the things that they use as preservatives in the bodies can actually affect how the DNA looks, and it can affect the DNA. It can break it down over time. It doesn't necessarily preserve it well. It might preserve the body, but the DNA is something completely different. So my question is If you're making a claim like somebody is coming out of sub-Saharan Africa, where it has, it's not dry. Like, for example, when you're talking about like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls is just parchment. I'm not talking about DNA now, but we're just talking about parchment. Well, we know in deserts and papyri can survive and can actually be preserved just because of that dry desert climate. But you don't get papyri that's 2,000 years old coming out of anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. Even ancient Ethiopian documents are hard to preserve because the climate is not fit for it. So if that papyri, which is already dry as it is struggling to survive that long, how much easier is it for a body to decompose and just be completely gone and expect DNA, viable DNA, to be able to be held for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and then people just assuming, well, that's where I'm from, if 90% of the information is gathered from people who are living and not the dead.
So real quick, just so I'm clear on what you're saying, like, so the Levant and East Africa, North Africa are all in places where DNA, like when we're talking about like fossil preservation in the ground, etc., like it's easier to preserve that type of stuff, right? Like, so so you're talking about populations in West Africa be harder to track or whatnot, which I agree with you in terms of just fossils and whatnot, but
not necessarily just West Africa. I'm talking about anything that's not in a desert climate. So if you want to say the Sahara, well, the Sahara is big, it's gigantic. So it wouldn't be surprising if things can get preserved there. But once you start leaving desert areas like that, the idea of preserving things become exponentially harder. It becomes hard. You can't preserve parchment, let alone DNA, which decomposes a lot faster than paper.
So what are you saying that poses a problem for in terms of people trying to connect themselves to Israelites via DNA? Just so I'm clear on the argument.
Because it's assuming. So when somebody is claiming, well, this is where I am from. Well, these are where my people are from. Well, what are you basing that on? Are you basing that on people who are living today? So with all of these different DNA ancestry, companies, most of the time their databases are not matched with one another. They create their own databases. Agreed. Yeah, exactly. So the fact that sometimes they can be confusing. You go to one and they'll say one thing, you'll go to another, it'll say something completely different, as you pointed out already. Sometimes they'll mix things up, they'll get things twisted. So there's not even a consensus on that, let alone the idea of the people who are the reason why there is no consensus and the reason why it's so hard is because they don't have the DNA from these people. You have to have somebody send in their DNA, or you have to go and get the DNA yourself in order to be able to make that assessment and say, okay, well, you have a relative that's over on this side of the world or somebody over there, and you guys are concentrated in these areas. A lot of people who share your DNA today live in these areas today. So it creates a lot of problems. You're begging the question because it's saying, well, today we can show you where the majority of the people who share your haplogroup or whatever live today. But how are you going to say that, well, this is where they were at hundreds, if not thousands of years ago?
So you can only make an age claim when you have actually something to match it up in terms of like a fossil, right? Or like something from that time.
That's the only possible way you can do that.
Right. And there's multiple examples of that, right? Like, so, but I just want to clear something up real quick. Like, so first and foremost, the majority of Hebrew people, quote unquote, they call themselves Hebrew Israelites, don't use DNA for a claim. They use Deuteronomy 28. There's some people in the moderate groups like B'nai Israel and Hebrew Nation Building and certain people who try to make a claim for E1B1A and Ron Dalton who make a claim for E1B1A, etc. But they're also doing so based off of no genetic material, like no body being found with E1B1A that's like a patriarch, right? The people I run with, like the Yag gang, they have a DNA model in terms of, and we don't call ourselves Hebrew Israelites. We don't connect ourselves with that. We don't have like we're not anti-Ashkenazi Jewish just because they're white. We don't make the claim that all people that came off the slave ships are Israelites. We don't make the claim that just because you're black you're an Israelite, right? We claim that the Israelites were scattered to the four corners of the world and they're going to look like the four corners of the world and whatnot. And that's just how that one works. Like, if you claim to be a Jew, you're going to be connected to people who look all kind of different ways. You know what I'm saying? So most people don't take our stance on that, right? So in that regard, I'll say it like this. So like what you're saying mostly has to do with like autosomal results, right? Like in terms of like current populations and whatnot. However, in terms, if I want to find out what's going on with an ancient population, this is when I do use the haplogroup concept, right? This is where the mutations on the X and Y chromosome become so important, because like you're talking about, like, so just like how you're talking about the degradation of DNA in certain situations, right? Like there's places like My True Ancestry that will tell you Not all of our DNA is perfect, or it's not complete. Some of it's been degraded DNA, and we do our best to try to understand, or try to figure out what that DNA is saying, right? And so when you're doing that, you're looking for SNPs and whatnot at this juncture, right? On those chromosomes and whatnot, because you're looking for small bits of coding, right? And so these SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, again, it's a genetic variation when a single nucleotide is altered and kept through heredity, right? So a lot of times these sites will use autosomal DNA, and that doesn't tell you where you descend from. That just tells you like who the people, like. So again, let me go back a couple of joints, right? So your mother goes one direction. That's your mitochondrial, right? Your father's father goes another direction. That's your Y chromosome, right? Everybody in between, that's your mitochondrial. That's your autosomal, right? Like, so places like My True Ancestry, they use your autosomal DNA and they try to connect you to ancient dig sites autosomally. That's just ridiculous, right? Because you're gonna get connections everywhere doing that, right? Because they don't like saying they're saying they're using degraded DNA, so it's not a full sequence, right? That which can be anything, right? Like, so there's one where the sequence degrades down to just the E1B, right? And so literally anybody who's below EP2 or EP2 or below is going to connect to that when they show that, right? So it's like and they don't really clearly flush that out for you, right? However, if I'm trying to find out like lineage and migration through populations, I want to use these SNPs, right? Because these SNPs aren't going to be the same amongst different populations. So for instance, like I'm EM33. Before that, it was talking about EM96. Before that, it was talking about DE140 something, right? Or 4 something like that, right? Those are all different. Those are different mutations that are on my Y chromosome that not everyone has, right? Some people do, some people don't. And I can trace, like, so if I want to go back in time, I have to have an artifact to go to, right? If I take a snapshot right now, my haplogroup is going to be all over the place. Like, so I showed to her like my haplogroup is in testing on modern populations, right? I don't have to have an ancient sample to have a haplogroup, right? Like the haplogroup is.
But it would be based. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it would be based on modern populations, though. Still.
Right, but so what I can do there is I can find out where's the density at, where are they at, etc., and I can find out where they've all gone. I can't say what the origin point is just looking at population density and whatnot, right? Looking at in a modern DNA test, but I can see where they've all gone, right? So that's
how do you see where they've gone? How would you see where they're gone? Because in order to see where they have gone, you would have to essentially find like a trail. You would have to find, well, there's a body here. Again, but you're dealing with snippets. So because you pointed out, right? Like if you're saying that it's snippets, then well, you can be related to anybody like that. And this idea that
I can't be related. I can only be related to people who have that genetic code. That specifically no at any point in time. That mutation didn't happen just today because we took the test today. That mutation has a coalescence state, right? That mutation happens at a certain point in time.
I understand that part. I understand that it's going to be, it happened at some time. It doesn't have to necessarily have happened with you.
So I'm not related to just anybody. I'm related to people who have that SNP, right? That mutation.
Yeah, of course. But the only way you would be able to find these people who have that SNP are people who are alive today. Right. Not back, because in order to be able to find that, you would have to find an ancient body with that same SNP in it. But there are no ancient bodies just laying around for you to come and find DNA in. That's my point that I'm trying to get to. Is that
for instance, I'm looking at EM123 right here, right? Like, so this is an upward clade of my maternal grandfather, right? So this is a downward clade of DNA that they found via Natufians that's over 11,000 years old, right? Like this, they have this DNA that they've cultivated from the Natufian dig sites in the Levant, right? So they have mummies, they have other dig sites that they have. Like there are ancient DNA sites you can grab this stuff from. So they have lists of what these DNA, they have lists of the DNA that they've grabbed from these people. Like I was just showing lists of mummies that had J1, J2, E1B1A, E1B1B, R1B, etc. G2A.
Well, but see, that's just proving my point. You're if this is the map that you're showing right now, how many countries are listed on here? That's my point in saying like, listen, it can say that you're related to a bunch of different people who have these snippets. The point is if that's what you're showing in this map right here, how many countries are being shown? It's all the way from Europe to sub-Saharan Africa.
All the countries that have people that have the snippets that have been tested, the snips that have been tested.
And that's my point when I say you can be related to anybody.
No, you can't be related to. You can only be related to the people who have those snips, my G.
Okay, no, I hear what you're saying, but these people.
So how is it? So break that down. How that's anybody? Just so I understand.
It can be just in anybody, just in Ethiopia alone. Just in Ethiopia alone. Do you know how many different tribes there are? You can claim that you can say I have Ethiopian roots, but then if you actually dealing with an Ethiopian, they're gonna be like, but to who? Are you Oromo? Are you Tigray? Are you Afar? To even assume that they're the same
your argument
people.
makes 100%. Let's say like my DNA is like 100% Iberian, right? And I'm EM34, right, or EM123, and I say, well, I got this from somebody in Ethiopia, but I got zero autosomal DNA from no trace DNA at all from East Africa, right? That doesn't make any sense for me to make that claim, right? None whatsoever. I hear what you're saying, but at the same point in time, does that mean that I don't share the mutation that they have? No, I still have that same mutation, so we still have paternal lineage that combines and whatnot. We go back to we have the same paternal lineage. I just don't have direct. Go ahead.
But it doesn't. But again, that's not telling you nothing. What you're saying is that you have.
How is that not telling you nothing?
No. Hear what I'm saying. It's like saying that you have DNA that's found in Ethiopia and in Italy, and it's found in the Levant, and it's found in Egypt, and it's found in Morocco, and it's found.
What do they have in common?
What do you mean? What do they have? There's a million things.
Why am I saying they're connected?
I'm trying to understand that myself. It's like saying
because the SNP they have on their Y chromosome means that they share paternal lineage at one point in time. That one male had that mutation that was passed down to all of them.
Okay, but again, you're saying one male, but all it takes is one you can take a group of population, spread them out into a bunch of different places, and now it's found everywhere. It doesn't pinpoint that you are somehow from these people. It starts becoming real arbitrary.
Let me like this. Okay, you're Ethiopian, right? You're Ethiopian, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a specific E1B1A clade that is specific to Ethiopians, right? I believe it's EM329. I got to double check that one, but it's literally specific to Ethiopians, right? No other country has it, right? It was from an area where people kept it close, whatever. Maybe probably like a Jewish population, you know what I'm saying? The people who didn't want to marry too far outside, etc., whatever. But it's specific to Ethiopia, right? Let's say you're in America now, right? You're like your children in America for centuries or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? You moved here away from Ethiopia and whatnot, right? We take your DNA and whatnot, right? We find out what your Y DNA is, what your mitochondria, all that type of stuff, right? If they find out that they have that specific haplogroup that only the Ethiopian people have, how is that not telling you something?
Well, that's speaking, but again, that's speaking in a vacuum. Now, if you take it to its if you take it to its logical conclusion, let's say there was no such thing as DNA testing, and all of a sudden, let's say hold on. No, I'm making a hypothetical situation here. Let's say there was no such thing as DNA testing yet. Let's say, like you said, somebody came from Ethiopia and they moved to the United States. They have children. Some of their children moved to South America. Some of their children moved to Canada. Some of them moved to London. Some of them moved to a whole bunch of different places. Mm-hmm. And then, let's say 1,000 years down the line, DNA testing gets all of a sudden becomes created. How would you be able to pinpoint and say, because now we know, because we gave the starting point, it came from Ethiopia. But if that DNA is found in all of these places, they discover now, look, this DNA, this E1B1, whatever, is found in Ethiopia, the United States, South America, and all of these different places. How would you be able to say with utmost certainty that the starting point was in Ethiopia? Without it being arbitrary?
Like I've said 3 times already, the only way you get origin point is with ancient DNA.
So again, but you explained to me that the ancient DNA is going to be built off of snippets. It's going to be built off of snippets. So again, it's not.
I'm going to identify any haplogroup from ancient DNA based upon SNPs, not snippets, SNPs.
Again, you're saying SNPs, but
the SNP is the single nucleotide polymorphism. That is the mutation that I'm looking for.
So then again,
So like
my
EM33, right? EM33 is a SNP. That is a set of mutations that they can read. That is my haplogroup. EM33, EM132. That is a SNP. What's your haplogroup?
All right. I've never taken a DNA test, so I couldn't tell you.
Let's say that you're EM34 because that this is actually found in Ethiopia. Let's just hypothetically say you're EM34, right? EM34, EM123 is the SNP that they're reading. That's the code, right? It's a set of letters in genetic code that they're reading that makes that SNP, right? It's not a snippet. It's just like so if I can't satisfy all the letters in that code, I can't say that thing is that haplogroup. Right.
Well, it is a snippet because it's not the complete code. It's a piece of the code. So it's where you're saying snippets. What you're doing is you're matching pieces of DNA, but you got DNA. We're talking about 3 billion. It's 3 billion different nucleotide pairs.
No, bro. Okay. No. Not on your chromosomes, fam. But not on your sex chromosomes. That's not how it works.
So hold on. So it's not. So you're saying it's your chromosome.
Haplogroups are these SNPs accumulated on somebody's sex chromosomes. So again, let's say like Y chromosomal Adam, he has the A haplogroup, right? So at one point there was a mutation that made DE. That's a YAP haplogroup. I have the A SNP on my Y DNA. I also have the DE SNP on my Y DNA. Below that DE split to make 2 different haplogroups, D and E. I have the EM96 split from that, right? I have that SNP on my Y DNA, that mutation on my Y DNA. I go down further from the EM96. I have the EL94, which is the EM33, EM132 SNP, right? Those are my list of SNPs on my Y DNA, right? Those are my mutations accumulated on my Y DNA. Not everybody has that, fam. The people who have that are the people I'm related to in that level, right? So I'm related. You go go upward in the clades, right? So I'm related to everyone who's EL94. You go back beyond that, I'm related to everyone who's EM96. Beyond that, I'm talking just paternally related, right? I'm paternally related to people who are the DE, and then paternally related to people who are A.
So hold on, but this is the issue here, though. As you was pointing out, so you were saying that there's one mutation that'll pop up in time, then another mutation pops up. Mm-hmm. So it starts to become real specific. The further you go, it gets more specific. In other words, specific. No. Hear what I'm saying. It becomes more complex in its specificity. In other words, what I'm saying is if you're, you know what I'm saying? So as it,
like E, okay. Like, yeah, gotcha. Like, so there's like E1B1A. Now there's like 12, 15 E1B1As. No, I got you. Agree. Yeah, it gets more complex as you go on. Yeah, 100%.
So then that means that essentially, as you go back, it loses specificity. Meaning that then therefore, if it gets more specific as you move forward, that means if you move backwards, it becomes less specific.
No, because you would have to lose the SNPs off the chromosome to get less specific. The SNPs don't go nowhere, fam. That's why I can trace it back.
You're missing my point. Listen, if you're saying that you start with A and then B breaks off from A and then C breaks off from B, that means that if you trace it back, get back to A, it becomes less specific.
No, that's not.
So that's my point.
I hear what you're saying, but just to be clear for the people, I'm not saying A comes from B, or C comes from B. I'm not saying.
So go ahead, explain break it down how you just broke it to me one more time, because that's how at least I understood that you were saying it. If you can explain to me one more time what you say.
Yes, I'm going to show you my SNPs.
Okay.
I'm going to show you what I just told you. Give me 2 seconds. Where are we at? Here we are. So the SNPs on my Y DNA, I have A, I have DE145, I have EM96. And that goes down to the EL94, right? So let's say you're EM34. This is going to look completely different for you. So it's going to say EM34 here. Then you're going to go back to you'll go back to EM96. EM96 is where we have a commonality, but in between here and there, there's a bunch of things that break off that are different, right? So for instance, like me, like if you're EM34 and I'm EM33, We don't. The numbers are real close, but we don't have the same SNPs, fam. You have another set of SNPs that I don't have, right? Period. Meaning that we have.
But
go ahead.
But there is a point where they're common, right?
Yes, and that at that commonality, that's where you and I share paternal lineage, right?
Now that's what I'm talking about, losing its specificity. So your group broke up. That's what I'm saying. As it's going back, there's going to be a point to where you and I are related, like you said, because apparently I broke off into a different haplogroup or whatever group it is, and you broke off into another one. But we do share a common ancestry. That's what I'm talking about, losing specificity. It becomes more specific the further away we get from the source, because different mutations happen, different things happen here and there, and therefore we're going to be unique. But there's a point that we are similar. So that's what I'm talking about, less specific. I'm not saying that it's simpler. I'm just saying it's less specific.
What do you mean by less specific? Let me explain why. Go ahead.
So it's like this. Think about it in evolutionary terms. I mean, evolution is stupid, but think about it in evolutionary terms, right? What do they all say about evolution? We all come from a single-celled organism, right? And then that single-cell organism starts breaking off into specific things. In one part, it breaks off into a frog. Another part, it breaks off into a tree. Another part, it breaks off into apes. But it becomes more specific, because a tree is not a dog. But what they'll say is if you go up the tree, it becomes less specified because you start having commonalities, to the point to where you have one commonality, which is that single-celled organism. It's not saying that the single-celled organism is not specific or that it's not complex. It's just saying it's less specified, meaning that the things that make you is not the exact same that makes this thing over here, but yet you guys have a common ancestor. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, if your argument has validity, it's going over my head, right? And I'll tell you why, right? Like, so, like, in the Bible, you can see to where, like, you have Eber, right? Like the patriarch of the Hebrews. There's a concept of patriarchs in the Bible, right? So you got, like, the patriarch of the Hebrews of Eber. Then you got Abraham. You got Lot, right? So from these two men, Abraham and Lot, they're uncle and nephew. Lot makes the Moabites and the Ammonites. Abraham makes the Midianites, the Israelites, the Ishmaelites, all that type of stuff, right? So they're all cousins at this juncture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they all descend from Eber. You're telling me being able to show that via the SNPs doesn't make sense, but the Bible tells you that's what happens.
No, the Bible, we can tell you that lineages happen because we can observe that. But this idea that you can somehow
help me understand why it's funny that you should be able to observe it scientifically than if you can actually observe it, like, just with your own eye.
What do you mean? I'm not understanding.
So science gives you a way to observe this with the SNPs, and you're telling me that it doesn't make sense, but you can observe it with your own eye, but you can also observe it with the science of the SNPs. That's what I'm saying. If your argument has validity, it's going over my head, fam.
No. I'm not saying that first of all, the Bible doesn't teach you that you're going to use SNPs or anything like that anyways. Usually the information that's going to get passed down you're going to get inherited from your parents. You're going to get information. You're going to have culture. The reason why we know that certain peoples are related, before we didn't need genetic testing to be able to trace people's lineages. If you go into East Africa and you see that there is a group, for example, in Ethiopia, you have like the Oromo, who are more Kushtic. Not to say that the Amhara, the Tigray aren't Kushtic, but the Amhara, the Afar, the Tigray, all of these ones, they're Semitic though. So you can see, we can observe cultures, places, peoples, ideas. We can observe these things, and archaeology can show these things. Well, look, in Ethiopia, we can show you that the Semitic speaking languages have been there for thousands of years. This is not something that was just brought there. For years, they tried to claim that the Semitic aspects of Ethiopia was somehow brought in from the Levant. It didn't happen like that. We can show you even in the time of Moses, they were Semitic in the time of Moses. That they were able to relate to one another. That these people have been there. We can show through archaeology and things like that, and show where and who these people were, and then people can make a claim to that and say, well, we were those people. Well, you can make the claim. Now, if you have certain evidences that you can show us, it'll tie you in closer to it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. It's just like with Ashkenazi.
Let's say those people, not to cut you. Let's say like those people are making the claim, right? So I'm an ancient Axumite or something like that, right? I heard somebody saying that the other day on Clubhouse, and I was like, I wonder if you've actually proven that one genetically, right? So let's say that there's like an ancient Axumite dig site, and they've actually found the DNA from that dig site. So they're supplying mitochondrial and Y DNAs from those dig sites, right? We can find, let's say it's like a royal house or somebody that's popular, whatever, right? So if my DNA is now matching that when it comes to haplogroup or whatnot, and my autosome was matching it, etc., like I'm from the area and my DNA is matching that when it comes to the Y chromosome, what would I be wrong to make the claim?
Again, I would have to look at I would have to look at the evidence. I would have to see it. It could be true. It could be true. But again, this idea that, well, the part that I'm struggling with is this idea of saying that, because from the information that I've read up on DNA testing and things like that, and especially what I know from biology, that if you're trying to convince me that DNA can sit untouched and undamaged, because you admitted it, that the DNA is already damaged. This is damaged DNA.
It can get degraded, yeah. Like, so so if it degrades to the point where you can't get the SNP, I got you. But if you're getting a SNP out of it, I don't understand what the issue is.
Again, but you're saying it can be degraded. But what I'm telling you is 99% of the time it is going to be degraded, because it takes less than.
If it's degraded, that you're not. So this is what I'm saying. Like, so my trans sister will give you like connections based upon autosomal DNA. That's what you can check when it's degraded, right? When it's degraded, you're not going to get the haplogroups, fam.
Okay, so you're saying it's going to be the autosomal DNA that they're going to be looking at. And so again, how is DNA? Again, I might have to do more research into it, but from the research that I've looked into, again, and it's not even just research, even biology. We struggle finding bones of other creatures, let alone just finding bones of human beings. And when we do, the idea that you can throw a body in the ground and expect the DNA to last thousands of years, that's like saying you expect.
No, you're not going to. You need really good conditions for that. Like, so again, like if you're like in the Caribbean or like in like the Amazon, fam, good luck, right? The bones, exactly. Like the ground is going to eat the bones. You feel what I'm saying? It's going to eat everything that's dirty. But like, so again, when you come with like degraded DNA, here's where I understand your argument, right? Like, so again, like what I was saying earlier, like what they do with my tree ancestry, there is a degraded. Well, I don't know if it's a degraded SNP or not. So what they have is an EP2 SNP, right? And so an EP2 SNP means that anybody who has anything downgrade of that, that's going to be like a subclade, like E1B1A or E1B1B, they're all going to connect to that, right? I have yet to see to where like people are given partial haplogroup readings from a SNP, like from DNA digs. I don't know that that's even possible.
Well, this is from the research that I've looked at. The idea of them even trying to find or even trying to get mummy DNA was hard. And matter of fact, for years they couldn't get it because oftentimes they would find that it was contaminated. The site would be contaminated,
and hence they had to go get that bone inside the ear. Yeah, they had to get that bone inside the ear.
It's my point exactly. So that's how hard it is to find
that something. Changed the game though too, bro. When they found that bone, bro, it changed the world on how they did that stuff.
No, I hear what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that in the best conditions, that's how hard it is to pull it out of a desert, let alone sub-Saharan Africa. Where we're talking about sub-Saharan Africa, where you're talking about basically tropical areas. You're basically talking about the equatorial line. You're talking about areas where it would be almost impossible to pull something out of the ground and then say, well, we have viable DNA from here.
Okay, so what were you saying? Hold on, I missed the area. I'll bring my homie.
Go ahead.
So what were you saying about what area was hard to pull from?
You're talking about sub-Saharan Africa. That's basically a tropical zone. You're talking about equatorial. You're talking about right near by the equator. You're talking about trying to pull DNA. But again, so if you're going to tell somebody, well, you have ancient roots that go to sub-Saharan Africa, it begs the question: how did you get that information? Are you basing it on modern populations? Fine. I have no issue with that. If you're going to tell me that you can test somebody.
Wait. I'm confused. I'm so confused. Like, so who's making the claim of having ancient DNA going to West Africa?
Well, when you're saying that these people come from these people, well, you are this much percentage from sub-Saharan Africa, or you're from this place. Well, that's going to only be based on modern populations. This has nothing to do with who you were in the past. All you can tell me is who your relatives are today.
Okay,
you can say that you have.
I'm with
that's all I'm saying.
No, I'm with that. So autosomal DNA can go back 500 years, right? Like, so that's enough to tell me who I can connect to in West Africa in terms of like my tribal stuff. Then I use my haplogroup to specify that even further. Like, so for instance, So
Can
for
you
instance,
explain how it goes back 500 years? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you said, so before you skip that point, can you explain how does it go back 500 years?
Okay, hold on while I'm getting my slide up. Let me bring on my homie Sean.
For sure.
Yeah, what's good with you, Sean?
Shalom, fam.
Shalom.
Yeah. So real quick, I hear the brothers' argument, and a lot of people have this problem, and I get it. So I'm gonna try to do this without getting too technical, because I seen y'all been at it for a minute. So I would say this to you: most DNA companies, when you get your DNA from them, or you submit your DNA and they give it back, they don't go out and do digs, right? They go by modern populations, or they also, with your haplogroup, they can tell you how far back they can trace that particular haplogroup or mutation by way of genetic research, right? Which the DNA companies don't do. What they do is they get their information from the geneticists at universities, archaeological, archaeology. I can't know. I'm messing up the word.
Archaeological digs.
Right. The archaeological digs that these geneticists, well, archaeologists do. So they might have a dig. If you read some of the papers, maybe I'll send you just one paper, and let's use the Natufians for example, right? They're saying that when they found this Natufian burial site, all right, this site goes back to about 8,000, 11,000 years, right?
How do they date that?
BC. Well, because they do it by material culture, right? They see what tools they're using, they see the pottery. So when an archaeological dig happens, there's a few things that happen. They go out, they dig, you got your archaeologists. And then the geneticists come in and they see if they can, if there's any bodies, if they can find any viable DNA that they can sequence. You understand what I'm saying? So what's going on around these people, the pottery, the tools they're using, the clothes, the beads, the material culture, they can tell how far back this may go in time. You get what I'm saying to you? So now we know that we have a group of haplogroup E in Levant 8 to 11,000 years ago. Also, you have the Ibermerusians, right, which is in the north of North Africa. They do, as the archaeologists do, they go around the world and they dig up sites. Same thing they do in Egypt. Go into Egypt and they dig up these sites. So what they do is they plot the times, right? So again, if they go into North Africa and they look and they find these Ibermerusians, right? They call them Ibermerusians, right? Iber for Iberian coast, and Merusian because Moorish, because it's in the Moorish territories, right? North Africa. So they do these digs. They find, again, the archaeologists go out there, they dig, they find these people, then they look for what tools they're using, they look for the pottery, they look for, and then they say, okay, well, this is Iron Age stuff. They're using Stone Age tools, they use the Stone Age. They're using Iron Age, they're using bronze. This is how they do it. This is how they time lapse it. Then now you go in, you get your geneticists who are probably from different, same universities or different universities, and they come out and if they find a burial site, after they've been excavated, they try and see if they can get any viable DNA that they can sequence. And they say, okay, this happened at this time. How do we know? Because of the material culture. That's the best way I can understand it. And they do that around the world, not just for haplogroup E, but for and like he said, the sex chromosomes, which is your male, your Y, and your X, right? Because these are the only ones that you can follow way back thousands of years ago. That's the best way I could explain it without getting too technical, because I hear my brother Moore getting real technical about it, and I think he's losing you. So that's the best way I can explain it to you.
Okay. If I can
from
reply,
there,
though,
I'll let the brothers try to finish up with you.
Can I reply to you, brother?
That's
I mean, I didn't want to cut you off.
Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So this is the issue that I'm having with that, because I don't want you to assume that it's going over my head in any way. No, I'm hearing everything that's being said, and again, I'm asking the questions because it seems like there's a lot of assumptions that's being built into the answers. You see, you said that they go to these sites and then they date the site by the things that are there. So let's say tools, or that's Iron Age, Stone Age, or whatever age. But again, that's not how science works. Because if it was that simple, then we would be able to date everything. But the point that I know, or at least from what I know from archaeology and how we date things that are historical, that's the reason why they had to come up with radio dating. Because you can't just throw an arbitrary number on something and assume that's what it is. Because you beg the question, you're assuming that this is what it is.
Well,
because
part of science is assumption.
Hold on, one second, brother. No, science is not assumption. Science is knowing. Scientia, when you're talking about science, it means to know. So when we're saying we know something, they'll pull things out like radio dating. Like, for instance, I deal with evolutionists all the time. They'll tell me, well, we know the age of the earth is billions and millions years old, or it's billions, multi-billions, 5 billion years old. The universe is 13 billion years old. We ask them, how do you get these numbers? Where do these numbers come from? Well, then they'll be quick to say, well, we use radio discs. They'll say we use potassium argon, or we'll use carbon 12, or they'll use all of these different things. Well, this is the issue that we always present to them. We'll ask them, what is the age of this fossil right here? You said you found this Triceratops. You found this Triceratops bone. What's the age of it? We'll ask them, how do you date it? They'll tell us, well, we date this bone by the layer that we find it in. Well, there is no such thing as no layers on the earth. There is no uniformity in layers, Mesozoic, Paleozoic, or any of these zoics, because it's not uniform anywhere in the world. It's only uniform in one spot, meaning that it's just unique to that one area. And we'll ask them, well, how do you date how old this rock or this fossil is? They'll say, well, by the layer that we find it in. And we're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, then how do you date the layer? Well, they'll tell you by the bone that we find in it. Well, that's circular reasoning. You're using one to confirm the other one. We ask you what's the age of the bone, you say the layer. We ask you what's the age of the layer, you say it's the bone. That's because when you take radiometric dating, there's nothing consistent about it. You can take any object today, any object, and you can go and get it radio tested. The first question that they're going to ask you is what layer you found it in, even though that should be completely irrelevant. That's because if you send a fossil in, you can break it into 5 different pieces, the same fossil, send it to 5 different laboratories and ask them, can you date this for me? You will get a wide spectrum from a couple thousand years old to millions years old to billions years old from the same fossil. So why is it that in science, they're not allowed to do that, but somehow we're going to start doing that with human fossils? It makes no sense at all. Because the idea that DNA is just being preserved in bone, well, we should have a whole wide spectrum. We can find bones anywhere. But this idea that somehow you're pulling DNA out of it, I'm trying to understand that part of it. This is the part where I'm struggling, because all I keep getting is answers that are assuming things. I'm not getting no clear answers. Nothing is going over my head. I've heard Brother Moore tell me that you can tell me where these lineages, you can tell me where your parents came from or who they're related to in modern times. But how do you tell me that that's where they were at 500 or even 1,000 years ago? That's my question. Can you brothers hear me?
So my answer has consistently been you can't do anything with time unless you actually have something from that time period to match it up to. What y'all got?
So okay.
Oh, hold on. Whoa,
question. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna let my G answer my G.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Bree.
Oh wait, my bad. Can you repeat the question? I was doing some other stuff.
Or if you want, Sean can go first too.
My bad, bro.
It's just a simple
Sean,
question.
you want to go? You good?
Go ahead.
I was on and off listening to the conversation. What is the issue though? I'm trying to.
My issue to Orthodox more. My question to you, maybe the brother can answer. Just the question that I wanted to ask to Brother Moore. Maybe you can answer it for him, or both of y'all can answer it. Brother Moore, you said that they found an ancient. I forgot. You said ancient fossil that's 11,000 years old. My question to you is how do you know that fossil is 11,000 years old?
What particular body are we talking about?
We're talking about the Natubian samples. So like
so Oh, my bad.
You got it. Go ahead. I'll get
First,
you.
I was going to ask Mo, have you like take the time to first type in and figure out how old they say the Natufians are? Like, have you at least did a little bit
No,
of research on the Natufians first before you
I have
ask?
done no research on the Natufians. My question is about the dating. You can talk about anybody in the world. You can
No, I
talk
mean,
about
like,
the
even when it
Natufians.
comes to the dating, like, have you done any research to look into it?
Oh, I'm very familiar with dating, and I'm
No,
asking
not
what
dating,
was
with
the
the
dating?
Natufians and the date of the Natufians. Have you looked into how old they are?
Nope, haven't.
Okay. I'll tell you what it says in this paper, but I also advise that you also take the time to look into it and read it on your own time as well. But it says, let's see, there's a paper on it. There's actually a lot of papers on it. I'm going to try to stay simple with it. So they used radiocarbon dating when it comes to placing the Natufian culture, and the Natufian culture would be within the time period between 12,500 and 9,500 BC. They were a Neolithic culture, and they were actually one of the first peoples to start farming and domesticating animals and such. But the Natufian period is split into two. So you have the early Natufian period, which is from 12,000 to 10,000 BC. And then you have the late Natufian period, which is from 10,000 to 9,000 BC. And during the late Natufian period was basically the Young Darius period. And the Young Darius was basically like, it was part of the last glacial maximum. It's like a mini ice age that occurred on the planet. But so yeah, the Natufians, they're a Neolithic people. Neolithic is in between the Mesolithic and the Chalcolithic, which is the Copper Age. And the Natufians are very important when it comes to like human development, because thanks to them we have farming.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. Again, what was the dating process, and if what we're basing this off of is carbon, if it's yeah, please, I'll be happy to look at it. But like I was saying, if the issue here is, I should say, if the dating is simply based off of radiocarbon dating, then again, that just tells me everything that I need to know.
There's a few other methods as well. Like I said, though, there's a lot of different papers on the Natufians and their age. I'll just send you one
for sure,
so I don't have to send you like 50 different papers because there's a lot. But this is from ResearchGate. If you have an account, you should be able to access it. I'm going to put this in the private chat, and I might put this in the main chat for other people too, so they can look into it.
So Mo, are you saying that there's no good dating methods, period?
My bad.
No, there isn't. As far as radio dating is irrelevant. It's unreliable. That's why I pointed out to you that even if you wanted to get something radio tested today, you have to tell them. They will ask you, part of the questioning. You can't just send something in and say, well, how old is this? The first question they're going to ask you is what layer in the earth did you find it in? So that way they can try to, because when they do these testing, the numbers come out wild. I'm talking about, you just do a little bit of research into the problems with radio dating.
So what's the most reliable form of dating as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, this is why I didn't bring up radiocarbon dating in the first place, right? You know, depending on how deep the dig is, like you said, how deep the dig is, what layer of soil, the material culture, all of these things play a role. So this is how they end up dating.
There is no reliable dating method. That's my point that I'm getting across. And the reason what I'm saying is the science hasn't caught up yet. It's unreliable. There's no reason why I should be, if the testing was reliable, I should be able to take the same fossil, any bone. Matter of fact, I can take any bone, take it to all 5 labs and get the same answer. But when you got one lab saying it's billions of years old and one saying it's thousands of years old, it just shows that it's unreliable and it's assumptions. But that's it.
No, I got you. So if there's no reliable way of measuring time for you, then all you do, if you're going to be scientific, is you take time off the table and you start measuring connection. So you have the data points of the haplogroups and autosomal DNA, et cetera, whatnot. So then you can start comparing other data points like language, culture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you just take time off the table, fam.
That's it. No, I completely agree. And that's why I was saying that but see, what happens is it's the argument.
My
Or I
fault,
should say the
I
answer.
couldn't see you. I got to take this off right quick. There we go.
The answer that you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
By the way, did you get the link more? I put in the side chat and the main chat for the paper that deals with the age of the new.
Yeah, hold on. There's your shoe. There we go. There you go. You should.
Hey,
my question
Shalom.
to you, more. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to address a few things that Mo said. First thing is the way that you utilize the terminology beg the question. To beg the question means to raise a question or point that has not been dealt with, invite an obvious question. Second definition, assume the truth of an argument or proposition to be proved without arguing it. I didn't hear anybody do that on this panel, but you utilize that term. Secondly, it sounds like you're questioning the validity of DNA or the ability to extract DNA. So I just want to lay out some rudimentary, basic understandings of DNA. First of all, every cell in your body carries a copy of your DNA. Every cell. So if you're able to extrapolate something out of your body, that's still, what's the term? That's still viable. You can extract DNA from, right? That's why the petrous bone is such a valuable piece of the skeletal remains, because it's able to survive longer because of how hard that bone is. That's why a lot of times when you read these DNA, when you read these DNA papers, a lot of times they're getting it from the petrous bone, they're getting it from the teeth, they're getting it from the hard bones of the body that could preserve it. Because again, the bones have cells in it. They're bone cells and they have copies of the DNA. Another thing that you brought up was, how are they getting DNA from the equatorial areas of Africa? Well, that's already been done. That was done in Cameroon, ancient Cameroon, the burials that date back to ancient Cameroon. They've already extracted the DNA. We know what Y haplogroups was there. We know what mitochondrial DNA was there. And the interesting thing about that find was it showed that the early people of Cameroon had no Bantu ancestry. They're not related to the majority of the Bantus, which have haplogroup E. Right? So they take that petrous bone, they grind it up, and they're able to extract the DNA from it and then sequence it. This is all standard stuff.
So if I could reply, you said that maybe I was struggling with the idea of understanding what beg the question is. No, I know exactly what beg the question means. It's a fallacy. And I clearly stated what question was being begged. Where are you getting these numbers from? If you're going to tell me that something's 11,000 years old, the obligation's on you to tell me, how did you get that number? You can't assume that I'm going to assume that you're telling the truth. The question is being begged. How are you getting these numbers? Why the numbers seem very arbitrary? Hold on, brother. Let me finish my point. Let me reply to the brother, and then you can definitely reply back to me. My point is this: if you're gonna say that it's 11,000 years old, you have to tell me how it is 11,000 years old. That's A. B. You're saying that DNA is found in almost every cell of the body. There's no denying that part. There's no denying that part at all. But what we do know is that DNA does not fossilize. Bones do fossilize because they're made with calcium. They're made with things that can actually be buried in the ground and can be preserved. DNA is hard to preserve. When you're talking about people who even mess with CRISPR today, the idea of trying to manipulate DNA is hard because the DNA decomposes so fast. But what you're trying to convince me of is that somehow this DNA was preserved thousands of years in a hostile environment. It's hard to keep DNA preserved in lab, let alone out in a environment that is not protected. So my question again is how are you getting these numbers? Because again, I have no issue with science. I love science. Science means that you have an answer that is it can be replicated. But if I'm sending samples into 5 different labs from the same sample and they're giving me wildly different numbers that vary from one another, it's just proof that the science, or I should say that science, is unreliable, meaning that it's not science, it's just guessing. It's arbitrary. It begs the question, why are you picking this specific number when you did your test, it varied from 1,000 years old to 25 million years old to 2 billion years old? Why did you choose the one that says that's a 9,000 years old? Why did you arbitrarily pick that number and not go with the rest of the numbers? Because it's showing that it's unreliable. So again, I understand the science. I understand how the science works. My question is why are you accepting it without actually questioning it? That's my question.
All right, so that's a lot to unpack there. First off, you're still saying beg the question. Scientists don't beg the question because they thoroughly argue things. They thoroughly argue it, right? With empirical data.
Could you mute your mic, please? Because you're making a lot of noise. And not you, just you.
Yeah, I got you. My bad. Let me mute. My bad. Let me mute that. Sorry about that, brothers. Let me mute.
There are several methods to actually date something. So you can do androcentric. What is it? I can't remember how the terminology, but it's the counting of the tree rings. And we know the oldest tree is what, 10,000 years old, the Methuselah tree. Anybody can look up the Methuselah tree. So you're going to have to argue with the Methuselah tree because we know how those rings grow and the rate at which they grow to come up with that date. There's other methods. Everyone, of course, knows radiocarbon dating, using the half-lives to find out what the date of something is, and that's accurate up to 50,000 years, and I think with a 50-year error margin. So these things can be proven out. You said something about to the effect of, why do they choose a certain date? Well, they have what they call confidence intervals. You're right. You do get multiple dates. So with molecular clock
Share my screen more. Thank you. Go ahead, you shoot. I was just...
Yeah. With the molecular clock hypothesis, right? You get several dates because they make several assumptions based off the mutation rate. Because you can look at someone's genome and see how many mutations they have. Then you have to make a rate to say how fast they acquired those mutations, right? And whatever you plug in for X will give you a number. So they get several dates. And what they use is a confidence interval. They'll have the highest date and then the lowest date. And then they usually choose the median. So there's a method behind it. That's if you do molecular dating. But a lot of times they try to calibrate it with paleontological dating, right? With dating of the bones, which is accurate up to 50,000 years, right? Like he has pollen dating on there. Do you got the radioactive decay dating? There's several dating methods out there. Uranium.
Yeah, there's a lot of data.
Right. So there's a plethora of dating ways to date, right? Like I said, you can use tree rings, you can use radiocarbon metric dating, you can use the molecular hypothesis because we know you can count mutations. You just have to know the rate at which those mutations came about, and it can give you a ballpark estimate of when that stuff happens. So no, that's not begging a question. That's actually proving out the model.
No, you just proved my point. You just told me that they went with the median number, even though they had wild swings with the numbers. In other words, they got one thing that says 500 years, another one that says 50,000 years, and you decided to stop at the 25,000 mark because it's in the middle. That's arbitrary. That doesn't even make no sense at all. That's like saying that's our best guesstimate. That's not science. Science, by definition, is replicable. Science means that you can tell me an equation, you can show me an experiment, and I should be able to replicate that on my own. If I can't replicate it, that's not science. It's observable, it's testable. You're just coming up, again, you just admitted that it's arbitrary how they pick their numberings. Then you brought up tree rings, and the farthest it goes back is 9,000 years. But what does counting tree rings have to do with testing the age of the DNA? You're talking, I'm talking about apples and you're talking about pineapples. I'm trying to get an understanding as to why you're choosing these random numbers. And then you're saying, well, it's proving the method. No, it's not. It's showing that the method is unreliable, because if I go to one lab and they swung and said, listen, we're going to go with the low number and say it's only 1,000 years old. There's another lab that says we're going to go with the high number. It's 90,000 years old. And another lab says, oh, we think it's somewhere around 45,000. How is that science? You're basically telling me I should go off of this person's best guesstimate because they're an alleged scientist. And listen, just because somebody's a scientist does not mean that they understand philosophy. When you're talking about begging the question, you're talking about something that is fallacious. It's inconsistent. Philosophy and science is not the same exact thing. They're actually completely different. Somebody can know chemistry, but does not mean that they understand the rules of logic. And you admitted that the thing that you were pointing out was a hypothesis. That's not science. So again, I'm asking you, how do you come up with these arbitrary numbers? You're saying that, well, we should trust the 11,000-year-old date that they chose for it. Why? Why should I choose that number when your testing shows that it can be wild? It can be all over the spectrum. Not to mention, we haven't even touched the problems with carbon dating. Carbon dating is assuming that the decay rate has always been the same. Also, if you're going to say that the decay rate is the same, you have to know how much was originally there in the first place. You have to tell me how much carbon-12 was originally there for it to be able to decay that many times in order to give an age to it. But if you don't know how much original carbon-12 was there or carbon-14 was there, how can you tell me how many half-lives it went through? If you got 1 gram of, let's say, carbon, who is to say that 1 gram of carbon didn't break off of a larger rock? Who is to say that this one gram of carbon hasn't been through 20 half-lives, let alone this other piece of carbon that's the exact same size has only been through 2 half-lives? This is why I'm saying you're begging the question. It's fallacious. You're just going by whatever they tell you, but you're not actually examining the science behind it. That's the problem that I have. So no, sir. You haven't proved nothing. All you have done is reaffirmed my point.
All right, can I respond? Again, to beg the question would be just to say it's true and not argue it. Assume it's true and not argue it. No one's doing that. Scientists don't do that. They write entire articles based on their propositions, right? They don't beg the question. And the dating methods are solid. Again, you can't go against the tree rings. And I was wrong. It's not 50,000 years. It's the cap. It's 70,000 years. He just had it on the screen for carbon dating, right? So my thing is, the only person that's begging the question, you're not proving anything to the contrary. Prove the contrary to these dating methods. Are you saying that the earth is, because it sounds like you've been watching a lot of Answers in Genesis. What's the other one? A lot of these Christian scientists.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to take it as well anyway.
Yeah. It sounds like you've been watching a lot of them, but it's not going to change the empirical science. And also, science is a field of assumptions. Majority of science is parsimony and inferences. And they base those inferences off real world things, right?
Gravity is literally a theory. It's not a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
gravity.
The best scientists
gravity
say
is measurable.
Gravity
is measurable.
The best scientists say what we can say is this. What we can say is that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of stuff is indefinite, right?
But again, I'm struggling to understand what you're trying to say now, because you're saying that. Well, you're saying that science they've wrote all these articles. They've wrote 100 articles on it. It doesn't matter how many articles they wrote on it. Until you can tell me with utmost confidence, listen, you can radiocarbon date something and get a specific number, and you can send it to 5 different labs. It's like you're completely ignoring this point.
No,
why is it that?
Actually, I said you can do that because
I actually want to ask him a quick question, really quick.
Please.
Hold on, real quick. The cap for 7,000 years with a 50-year error margin.
With the 50-year error margin, you're saying that they only have a 50-year error margin. My question is then why do the labs then have wildly different numbers that aren't 50 years? We're talking about on the scales of thousands and millions of years old.
No. You don't use carbon dating for stuff that old.
So
you don't. You're carbon dating for stuff that's millions of years old.
Again, do you understand? Okay.
No,
do you understand how half-life works? Hold on. Do you understand how half-lives work? How do half-lives work?
Hey,
Mom, half-life work?
It's not carbon-12, it's carbon-14.
Go ahead.
Mama, do you a favor right quick. So
go ahead,
again, we've established that you do not agree that there's any solid timing there, right? So let's go back to the DNA concept, right? Because there's younger creationists who say everything you're saying about the dating method, right? No issue with that, right? But you have young Earth creationists who are dealing with the mutations that we're talking about, and the SNPs that we're talking about, and the haplogroups we're talking about, and all that type of stuff. But what they're doing is they're fitting the mutation rates into a young Earth model, right? So if you take the time off the table, whether it's old Earth, young Earth, mid, whatever you want to do, right? Doesn't matter. Take the time off the table, right? You can still use the autosomal DNA and also the haplogroup DNA to understand who you connect to and who you connect to over large swaths of migration, right? So if you're going to take the time off the table, all right, I can use the haplogroups to figure out who I connect to via large migration and whatnot, right? I can use the autosomal DNA to find out who I connect to in immediate migration, right? So no matter how you slice it, if I want to find out more about the connection, then I go with I go into more material detail. I go into language, I go into culture, I go into agriculture, I go into all kind of different stuff, right? I go into archaeological stuff. Like I take the time out and I just whatever I find that connects, right? Like so if I take time off, I can still connect myself autosomally. I can still connect myself haplogroup wise. I can still connect myself linguistically. I can still connect myself culturally to people who have these Hebraic practices and whatnot, right? Just like you, right? Yeah. So just like you, if we took DNA off the table, you'd be able to connect yourself back to people who have the Ethiopic practices, etc. Languages, culture, all, you know what I'm saying?
Not a problem at all. I completely agree with that.
Okay.
This idea where you're talking about where there's things that we can actually observe, there's no issue with that. Like I said, I have no issue with that at all. The only issue that I had particularly was just the idea that you can just out of the blue claim that something is this many years old, but you have nothing to show that. It's just a guesstimate. And again, I have no issue using archaeology to connect people together. Like you pointed out, practices, ideas, languages, things like that can clearly show migrational patterns, can show that ideas have been exchanged, whether it's, bringing steel or even bringing guns to a country. You can start tracing things back like that. But this idea that you can just pull out these crazy numbers, it just doesn't make sense to me. But what you just said, no problem with that, more.
So your argument was attaching a SNP to time, not necessarily tracking migrations through SNPs.
No, exactly. You can show that there's migrations. You can show even that map that you showed me, right? You were showing that these SNPs was found in a lot of places. Now, I would agree that there was probably a specific spot where it started at, but the idea that you can just pinpoint and say, well, the original spot where it started at, well, that's now you're begging the question. You're making an assumption, but that map that you showed with all of these swaths of people who are connected, obviously there has to have been some type of migration between them if there's a connection between them.
And I'll say this, I will agree with you. Like, so if you take time off the table, I cannot show you an origin point, period. Like that's literally a conversation it's impossible to have, right? So I'll give you that. If you take time off the table, like I can't do that for you. But if you put time on the table, that's something that we can talk about. We're just going to argue over dating methods, right? But like something we're also going to argue over is the repetition of dating method. Like, so you're saying like science is repetition, and so like I'm going to repetitively going to get the similar types of range. Like so, radiant carbon dating, like my man says, gives me the same ranges, period, right? And like for what I'm going to use it for. The different type of dating methods, they have their ranges that are repeatable. Like the range ain't going to change from today to tomorrow on the method unless the material that they use to test with, unless the technology to test with, right? Like the method is the method, whatever they're talking about, right? The range is the range for that method, right? That's going to be reproducible, right? So I agree with you in the sense of like is the guesstimating in between the range always the most scientific? Not necessarily. That can be a guess, right? But the concept that you have to agree that they're using repeatable methods to test with.
No, the issue that I'm having even with this idea that that it's repeatable. Listen, if you're going to give me a range between 1,000 and 500,000 years, that's not reliable. It's just arbitrary. It becomes ridiculous. It serves no purpose because 500,000 years, how much happens in between that time? That's not really a range. It just becomes a guesstimate. Now, if it truly was between 10, 15, 25, hell, even 50 years, it wouldn't be a problem. But no carbon dating is ever that close. They'll tell you, well, these are the range. Well, if that's the case, if it was really that case, then they shouldn't even be concerned at where it was found at. There should be no low number and no crazy high number. This is
my point. So has the range for carbon dating changed in the past week?
The range of carbon dating has been shown to be even unreliable now. That's the point why I brought it up.
No. I'm talking about the range of the dating that you're gonna have, like the spread in the date that you can call, right? Has that changed in the past week, or is it the same that it's been for the longest?
I'm not sure what you mean by like, has it changed within the past week? Are you saying has the understanding on it changed, or has the actual process changed?
What was the range on carbon dating?
It's not the range; it's the cap. The
cap. There we go. The cap.
70,000 years, and the era of the margin of error is only like a couple decades.
Has that cap changed anytime recently?
That's never been true. Again, that's never been true.
Bro,
nobody has ever shown. Man. Hold on, you're saying I'm begging the question. I'm not even making a statement here.
It's not true. You're not arguing. You're not proving it.
So, yeah, show an example. Like, give a source for what you're saying, Mo.
A source? Well, let me find something for you, man. The whole was not prepared to have a slide or anything ready for you like that. But there's a reason why. If carbon, go ahead, man.
I would like to just challenge you to a debate on this, and we can just deal with it there. We can show PowerPoint slide presentation, demonstrate our points with 15-minute rounds unabated. 3 rounds of 15-minute rounds each, and then at the end we have a Q&A segment, and then we'll let the people decide.
That sounds
good. I'll be more than happy for that. I'll be with that for sure. Right. We'll set up a day. We'll get it figured out. I got a kind of a hectic schedule, but I'll find some time for you, bro, and we'll get that going for sure. No,
I'm gonna put my email. I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and then just give them more, and then we'll figure something out.
Yes, sir.
Yep. I'll post mine in there too.
That's what's up.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all.
So with that, I'm gonna let everyone give a closing statement because we've been on for 3.5 hours. You know what I'm saying? And with that, before we go, I gotta ask you super quick question just for the haters and whatnot. So there was some Candyland Iceman Israelites, you know what I'm saying, or Candyland Iceman Israelites, you know what I'm saying, talking about you were claiming that R could not be Israelite. And I wanted to clarify on something. Were you saying that it could not be part of national Israel, or you were in your model? You're saying it could not be part of tribal Israel?
They can't be the descendants of Jacob. It's like nearly impossible for them to do that, especially R1B M269, which was a European marker. So it's like trying to put that or make that clay to be a son of Jacob. Or representing Jacob, I just don't see it with the available data.
So you weren't saying that R1B V88 wasn't in Northeast Africa, and that R wasn't in the Middle East at all, right?
No, because with Akhenaten, you got R1B with Akhenaten, so he's in the Near East. But also what I've been saying for months is that anybody, any clade, any haplogroup can join the Israelites. The scriptures tell you that. The foreigner amongst you that, pretty much submits to your ways will be treated like a homeborn Israelite. So I never went against that. Those guys over there have a racial supremacy doctrine where all Israel has to be black and only deal with black people. That's them. We don't teach. YAP don't teach that.
No, sir.
I just don't believe R1B could be a descendant of Jacob. I think that's
got 100%. Like via the app model, that's not how that one works.
Facts.
All right, what you got, Ibri?
The only thing I gotta say is we're about to go to Yeshub's channel, right? We're gonna do a show.
Yeah. I was actually preparing my stuff for the show, and I overheard the brother, so I was like, let me get on here real quick and have a discussion.
I was trying to get the coals ready for the hibachi, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's all I got then. Everybody come on over to Genesis 49ers. We're about to have the show.
Yes, sir.
Also more in that clip that they use, I even said that they may have mixed with Israelites.
Exactly.
Said it.
100%. Exactly. The elder statesman, yeah. Sean Harris, what you got, sir?
Yeah, we pretty much covered what we could. I jumped on too because I just wanted to try to, walk with the brother. I wasn't necessarily like opposed to what he's saying. Dating is hard. you know. But we just go with the information that's given to us. That's how, you know, we do things. Could they be wrong? Yeah. Could we be wrong? Yeah. But we're just going with the available data that we have. So I just wanted to come up here and just try to help out the conversation with the brother. Outside of that, we got, like Avery said, yeah, we're going over to Genesis 49ers. We're going to have a live over there. We get ready to do something. So, yeah.
I hope y'all are hungry because it's about to be yapping these meals for everybody. So with that, Mo, you got anything you want to say?
Nah, man, just appreciate the conversation. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of other topics that hopefully I'll be able to link up with you brothers on, man. And whether they be debates or just conversations, I'm with it, man. But it was a blessing to be here. And, man, I just appreciate the time, man. So God bless. And hopefully everybody, you know what I'm saying, safe and hopefully all's blessed, man.
Man, that's what's up. And so I appreciate y'all for coming out. Appreciate your comments and your thoughts and whatnot, your interactions. Appreciate everyone for jumping on the panel. Shout out to Yap. Please, if you're watching this, go tune in to Genesis 49ers channel because it's about to be what's yapping over there. You know what I'm saying? About to be yapping these meals all day. I can't wait to see what's popping. Oh, that's what's up. So everybody put their emails in the back chat. So we will be setting up this debate, Lord willing. And so with that, family, I say peace and love.
I like the way this feel, yeah. Let my soul cry, yeah, yeah, yeah. Minister, we gonna speak from the heart on this one. I'm performing lyrical funerals, no obituary. I killed your boy and brought him back to life. Pet cemetery. My anointing not based on attendance at a seminary. Scarlet witches, they attracted to the visionary. Everywhere I go, I bring the word with me, missionary. Soldier drafted in the war machine, military. Pay attention, what I'm saying to you, legendary. You got the demeanor of a front desk secretary. That mean you take the calls, but you don't make the calls. That's why you hate, cause ain't nothing fake about me at all. Now I dare you try to say that with a straight face. My delivery in tip-top great shape. I'm too advanced for you, light years, space age. No evolution for you cavemen, stone age. I'm a thoroughbred, rock solid. I came from the bottom to the top, rock climbing. I grew up in the hood, pros and cons. That's that full court pressure when the amalanche roll out that stretch. Why can't you see it's not logical? And you live diabolical. Boy, your point of view smaller than the hair follicle molecule. This for all of them that follow you, smoking all of them barbecue. When I pull up, your voice on correct itself with no auto-tune. I got a whole nother level that I can enter whenever I gotta deal with the devil. I pick a whole nother method. I hear a whole lot of yapping. They wanna see my reaction. Really out here in the community making it happen. I don't really think they understand the dilemma. They ain't looking at the man in the mirror. I can't say it any clearer. The plan is very simple. It's time to start playing in the temple. Before somebody come and put the can on your temple. Reaching like a baby with his hand for the nipple. The Grand Reaper coming with his hand on the sickle. In the van coming with a ram with it. With the van coming get him. I am so glad that I changed up. Made it out of where I came from. Watch for the slide and the hook of the slow ball, fastball, and their change up. That ghetto lifestyle, it changed us. Go back to visit, it ain't changed much. Only difference is now the way that my brain process information. And Satan, but after my license, day one, let me say something. Only reason that I'm still alive today because God's grace is amazing. Just another raisin in the sun. Dream deferred when things occurred. Now you getting served right on the curb like a lemonade stand. I just gave you the benediction, let the whole church say amen.